silent.
We going in? Are we live?
We are live.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, coming to you live from the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, where we are nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. Bones aren't so dusty these days. It's winter, it's raining, it's wet, it's good, cold, and Luke Caverns is back in studio with us. Just returned from exploring the jungle. So I'm excited to hear about that. It looked like you were having some adventures.
Oh yeah, man, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was probably the most, definitely the most like wild excursion that I've done thus far.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good plan, but a lot of it consisted of like sleeping on the jungle floor every night. And
sounds like a plan.
And then, man, we worked our asses off, filming a whole bunch of stuff for YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm also still in the process of we're trying to pitch a pilot show right now to like a major kind of studio. So that was a big reason that we went there.
That's cool. We
were working super hard, and I ended up getting heat stroke on like the 5th day, and I laid like on the jungle floor in a tent for like 30 hours recovering from that.
Oh no.
And but it was awesome, man.
All right, you're making me feel better about going to the jungle. I know that you've gotten heat stroke. I can be like, at least I didn't get heat stroke, bro.
Yeah. No, we would be fine. I mean, I was.
Did you turn up Luke's mic? They're saying he's quiet.
I already did.
Okay.
I was really straining myself, like much more than we would on an expedition. Like on an expedition, you're just walking around with like a machete, kind of chopping your way through the forest. And, you know, most of the land out there is fairly flat. We were in the Maya lowlands, so that's like, well, where I was talking about last time in Yaxchilan when I was here, that's the Maya highlands, so it's very mountainous. And then where we were at was much more northeast of that, so it's flat. So you're just walking through flat jungle, and it's really easy to spot pyramids in the jungle out there because any hill, you know that's not a hill, it's going to be a pyramid. So if we were on an expedition, we'd mostly just be walking around chopping our way through the forest. But on this, you know, we'd have to get shots like 5 or 6 times in a row, and so that's 5 or 6 times me climbing all the way up the pyramid, all the way back down. And so these shoots will go on for 7 or 8 hours, and I would have drank like 1 water bottle during that time.
Wow.
So by the end, my legs are like cramping. And on the 5th day, we get home, and all of a sudden, I get like flu symptoms, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And it's hot there at night, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it's 80s, low 80s at night, and I'm laying there, and I have like shivers, you know, and so I had gotten really, really bad heat stroke, so I slept for like a full day. We hired these really nice Mexican ladies, like 40 miles north of us. It was the nearest town. And the only restaurant there was their little house. And so we had them bring us some food, and like they brought me a ton of food and a ton of water. And so for like a day I recovered, and then I bounced back. And then the next day the guys on my team got heat stroke.
Oh wow.
So yeah. So we were really busting ourselves out there, but man, it was awesome. I feel like
heat stroke in November or December.
That doesn't make a difference down there.
That's crazy.
You
get a heat stroke in December, man.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. When I landed early yesterday. Like I think I got home at like 2 a.m. yesterday.
Okay.
And so when I got off the plane, I was like, oh my God, it's cold, you know, because down there it's not cold even at night. Even at 1 o'clock in the morning, you walk outside and it's like warm, you know. Yeah, you can imagine what it's like during the days. So, yeah.
Well, Bruce already gave us some beer money, $20 for beers. He says, it looks like we need beers. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, I should probably go get some.
Yeah, we're going to need some beers. After the first break, we'll get some beers.
Animator and Fiddler, $15, says, dang, I missed the beginning. No, you didn't.
You didn't miss it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was like 10 minutes late.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. And Patty. Hey, Patty, $20. She says, Luke.
Thank you, Patty.
Hey, look, it's not all Luke's fault. I I got hung up at the winery, and I was racking some wine, and when I got it out of the tank was like so covered in crystals. I was like trying to steam clean it, and then the steam cleaner kept messing up, and then it leaked diesel on the crush pad. So then I was out there dumping perk on the crush pad and like scrubbing it with the broom and just trying to like clean up the diesel. It was a mess. And so I got here at like 7:20.
Yeah.
I had 10 minutes to get ready.
I was totally on time.
I'm
just
sorry.
this one time.
I'm sorry. You guys have much less hair than last time I saw you. Like your facial hair is gone.
It's gone.
And your
I
long
chopped the
locks
hair
are gone.
off, bro.
But it looks good though.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Chopped off the locks.
We've been getting our dive certifications.
Oh, have you?
And so I completely shaved my face so the mask would seal because I couldn't.
What do you have like a trip plan? Something you want to do?
We're going with you.
Oh, you're going with we're diving. I don't.
We're going into some cenotes, bro.
Yeah, I don't think you want to dive out there. Even in the cenotes, you can't even see anything. It's like
know,
green sludge.
But I've read that when
And
you
a lot
get
of
below the sludge, it clears up.
Yeah.
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 So you just have to
On
dive.
some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them don't have moving water. Some of them have no water at all. Not to derail, because I want to hear about your diving certifications. But we saw a cenote there that was completely full of bat poop. Like, like 6 feet deep of bat guano.
We're getting guano certified, bro.
Yeah. And,
Can we make some guano bowls?
So we went out there, dude, and we went up to this cenote, and so I don't know, bat's been living in there for like 80,000 years or something like that, and so at nighttime when like all the mosquitoes come out, and then the bats swarm out of there, and dude, you're looking up there, and it's like a swarm of bats, like in a tornado, millions of them flying off. And if I had my drone, it would have just looked like plumes, like how smoke plumes out. It would have looked like plumes of bats just flying off into the jungle. Just
that
coming
is
straight out
crazy,
of the
dude.
ground.
What is underneath that guano, bro?
Oh, dude, there's so much down there.
Yeah.
I mean, so when we were out there and we're standing over that cenote, we were a lot more south, so it was starting to get a bit more hilly. Like, are you guys familiar with the site El Mirador? Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
It's a Maya site, like the most ancient Maya site, and that's starting to get a bit more into the hills.
We're gonna have to pull up some maps.
You know what?
Yeah.
I've been screwing the watcher over too.
Oh.
I don't have the chat open.
And the watcher is here, by the way.
Yeah, watcher's here.
Yeah.
Let me see. See, this
Hello,
is the
watcher.
other problem. Hey, watcher, how's it going?
Yeah, Kyle was having major studio computer problems before we were.
Going great. Glad to be here. Super excited to hear about Luke's adventures, man. Heat stroke's no joke, buddy. I'm glad you bounced back. It's tough stuff.
Yeah, it was strange. It was kind of surreal. Like, I'm sitting there in the bed shivering, dude. Like, I'm ice cold, and I'm so dehydrated that I'm not even thirsty anymore. I was talking to my wife, and she was like, it's her job to know that kind of stuff. And she was like, yeah, if you're not thirsty anymore, that's when you're like dangerously dehydrated. And I was thinking, surely not me, not me.
Yeah, and if you hit a point where you stop sweating, you're like,
yeah, that's true.
Dangerously close to succumbing to the elements.
I don't think I was that close. We sweat so much there that there wasn't a time when every single square centimeter of your clothing was not covered in sweat. We were just drenched the whole time that we were there.
Yeah.
It's
it sounds miserable.
yeah, well, it's fun, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I guess it can be fun, but I mean, it gets hot here in the summer too, and I hate that just dripping sweat.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're working outside.
All right, watcher, I got your chat up.
We gonna pull up some maps too?
Did you wanna zoom on some maps?
Oh, well, I was really just going to show you guys. I could show y'all where I'm at or where I was at.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see
that would be good.
The area that I was.
Show it to the people.
Yeah, so
as
it's
well.
just
You want Google Earth or you want what do you want?
Probably Google Earth. I feel like that's the easiest way to show it. It's called the Calakmul Biosphere Reserve. It's in Campeche, Mexico, directly north of Guatemala, and it's one of the most uncharted jungles on Earth. And guys, like it was, I had never gotten such a perspective as to how absolutely packed the Maya world was with lost cities than this trip.
Yeah.
I have a video that I'm working on called I found a lost, or something like I'm gonna title it something along the lines of like I found a lost city with my drone.
Yeah.
Because we were driving down the road and there are these ancient farms like way out in the sticks that Maya people were farming. You know, they're still farming today. Very impoverished Maya people out there, and they know about the ruins that are on their property. And so yeah, I've got these binoculars. We're driving down the road. And I'm looking way off in the distance, and you can see the pyramid platforms coming up. So we pull over on the side of the road and we film a couple things there. I get a bunch of shots with my long lens and I fly my drone out there. Sure enough, it's an obvious, like unambiguously, it's a city. There's, so in the ancient Americas, there's things called U-shaped plazas, like the Inca sites have them, you know, where it's a U-shape, but they're raised platforms with a plaza in the middle. Probably would have been like a marketplace. And then on one side of the plaza, you'll have a pyramid or it'll be surrounded by pyramids. And so, yeah, that's Kalak Mul right there. That's the main. That's
Watcher
the Great
just
Pyramid of
posted
Kalak
it.
Mul.
Yeah.
Should I just throw that up there? I mean,
Sure. That's
like it's just Google Earth is not wanting to go.
yeah. It's Google Earth is tough to like live stream. I don't know
Look
why
at
it doesn't.
look at how slow it is.
Yeah, it doesn't work that well for me either. When I'm trying to live stream, like when I go back and watch it, it's all fuzzy and pixelated and stuff.
Okay.
Well, we would be doing a screen capture of this.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I got
Yeah.
you.
So what's the place called?
It's just called Kalak Mul. Okay.
I ain't typing that.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Is this yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to
And you can move the
get through.
you can move that mic stand out of your way too.
Oh no, I'm all good. Thank you though. Okay, it's coming through. Let's see.
Oh, there's a video lag now.
Is there?
See,
it?
it's Google Earth.
Is it Google Earth? Yeah.
Okay, Kalak Mul Biosphere Reserve. There we go. It's gonna take us.
Troy. I don't know if it's gonna work.
Good old Macintosh.
There we go.
Hey, screw you, man.
It'll come
I didn't
through.
even open Logic.
Yeah.
Like Logic's not. I'm gonna have to rip all this
Yeah,
audio
you're
from
right.
YouTube.
Cool. Yeah.
It's
so
Google. That's the problem.
Is it Google?
So you-
Yeah.
YouTube
you can zoom out a
Gmail.
little bit.
and Google Maps.
But you do need to share it. You need to switch to.
Oh.
Kyle doesn't have a way to do it.
I'm waiting to see how slow this. and
Okay.
bad
All right.
this
So we're
is.
checking to see if it's
Sorry.
gonna work. It's not your problem, bro. We're checking to see if it's gonna work. If it does, Kyle will share
I
it.
hope I'm not like over zooming out, and once it catches up, it's like back to the way that it was.
Yeah. Here, let's see. Can you get this out of your way? There you go.
Thank you, sir. So, anyways, yeah. So we're at this place called the Kalak Mul Bioreserve, and way out in the middle of the jungle. Yeah, it's moving. It's moving a little bit quicker now.
Okay, so let me switch it over. Up here.
The shaman scroll.
There it is.
Zero mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a classic Snake Bros. Zero mistakes.
Um,
We're never making any mistakes.
Okay, so this is the bioreserve. I don't know how much more I can zoom out. If I just keep on zooming out, it's just you guys are just gonna see like the jungle is just massive.
Yeah.
So I can't quite see exactly. I can't quite tell aerially where this pin is dropping in. But we were somewhere probably a little bit north of here, and this is one of the most uncharted areas of the Maya world. So this is southern Campeche, and oh, there we go. It's kind of moving quick now. So you guys can see, like, I'm just zooming out and zooming out, and it's still huge. But anyways, so in the jungle here, these are some of the most ancient Maya cities that we know of. The problem is like that. I think that's of course the most interesting study of the Maya, but the jungles are so remote out there that it's just not very feasible for academics to get huge teams of people out there. They've tried it and they've mapped. There was one expedition done in 2002, and they mapped like I'm not exactly sure what the area is, but it's like a 5 mile by 5 mile area. They found 30 sites. It was something dense like that. Like more than ever on this trip, I realized that the entire Yucatan Peninsula is like a pin cushion with no more room for any pins to be put in. Like it's just, dude, no matter where you go, if you look off out the window, like if you guys ever go to southern Mexico out in the jungles, go drive down the sticks and look really closely off into the forest and you'll see pyramid, 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 pyramid,
Wow.
pyramid. And you might stop for a couple minutes and then it'll start again. And I can't even fathom it. There's got to be tens of thousands of pyramids out there. And these big ones that you see in Calakmul, they're just normal sized. Like there's not any comparative to other Maya pyramids, there's not any of them that are exceptionally more large than others, because even minor sites have pyramids that are almost as big as the largest ones. And the largest Maya pyramids are bigger than all but 3 or 4 of the pyramids in Egypt. Like, you know, like when you're talking about the Bent Pyramid is colossal, the Red Pyramid is colossal, you know, Khufu and Khafre, those are colossal.
Yeah.
But other than those, the biggest Maya pyramids are bigger than all of Egypt's pyramids. And
like footprint wise and height, or just
both.
Okay,
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
Wow.
But they're all different sizes. Like, I think footprint, the Great Pyramid at Calakmul is a lot bigger than, say, Khufu, but Khufu is, I mean, dude, I was standing on top of it. So the Great Pyramid at Calakmul is the biggest one. It's the biggest Maya pyramid north of El Mirador. And this one stands at like 240 feet tall, and I'm standing on top of the pyramid, and I'm looking around, and I look straight up, and I think like twice as tall as this.
Yeah,
is Khufu's pyramid.
Khufu, yeah.
And I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine it, because you think you can kind of imagine how big Khufu's pyramid is.
No.
Dude, when I'm standing at the base of this one that was on our screen for a second, when I'm standing at the base of that, I can't understand how big it is looking up at it. So it's like, holy crap. But anyways, yeah. So,
and I can tell you that walking up to Khufu, you're just like, how is this possible?
Dude, I know. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But what's crazy is, so the biggest Maya pyramids get up to be about like 250 feet tall, which Khufu's pyramid is like 455 or something like that. But the thing is, all of the Maya pyramids, they have towns built on top of them. Like as you go up, there are terraces for palaces and houses on the pyramid, and there are like tunnels inside of it that lead to like ritualistic chambers, or whatever, that's what they all say about everything. Ritualistic chambers and places where there's obviously housing inside the pyramid. So it's like there's whole neighborhoods built on top of the pyramid. And when you go to Calakmul, which is arguably the most significant site in the Maya world, and you look at the largest pyramid there, the day before that I was at a site that is not very well known at all, and the pyramids were just as big.
Whoa.
Like and I'm talking about, there's freaking hundreds of them, dude. Hundreds of them that are that big. And I mean, obviously, like iconographically, like Egypt is a land of pyramids, but this Yucatan Peninsula, dude, there's got to be over 1,000 pyramids that size. Just completely enormous, and they're all different. They're not quite uniform. Like like Egypt, they're going for something in particular. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, whatever that like design is, they're going for something. In these, every single pyramid is unique. They're all a little bit different. The designs are a little bit different. Where they put the palaces like on the temple, and the tunnels inside of them are all different.
Are they? I did see that you posted some on Twitter about megaliths, but are the pyramids like, so in Egypt, some of the blocks on the pyramids are enormous, and then the average block I think on the Great Pyramid is a 2-ton block.
Yeah,
so
which is totally enormous.
Huge. Yeah.
So here's what's really interesting, and so I think the last time I was here, I was with I was talking about like my mentor, who's Professor Dr. Barnhart. I reference him a lot.
Yeah.
So he and I have had a couple conversations, and I've talked to him about, I'm like, the Maya don't really get that like pop culture notoriety, because everybody loves megaliths. That's like kind of the thing. Like
They didn't build with big enough stone.
yeah, exactly. But and that
Not
really
quite as cool as giant stones.
yeah, and I mean, in a way, I agree with that. Like that kind of that allure of how do they move these giant stones is certainly there. Definitely in Egypt, that's a huge part of when you go to see sites in Egypt. You go there to awe and at these
just marvel
blocks
at
and marvel at the blocks. So what's really interesting is in the Maya world, Dr. Barnhart kind of like this isn't his particular area of interest like it is ours, but I asked him, I was like, are you aware of megaliths in the Maya world? Like I knew about stela that are there, and so for anybody watching, a stela is like they're in Egypt as well, but it's a giant block that is carved on 6 sides, so it's rectangular, and the Maya use them. They carve them out of varying degrees of quality limestone, and so some of them are badly eroded, some of them are perfect. But I don't know the exact height of them, but I know that the weight goes from anywhere from 40 to like 75 tons.
Okay,
And
that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, and they stand them straight up like an obelisk. Like there's a site called Kirigua, and did you all see the obelisk at Karnak when you were there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure that thing is like monstrously tall.
It's mind-boggling.
So the tallest Maya stela at Kirigua is half the height, and it's like 70 tons or so. So those were Maya megaliths that I was aware of, but and it's also not known how they move those at all. There isn't really like a proposed and agreed upon hypothesis about that. But I had asked him, well, what about megaliths that are used in the buildings?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, yes, I have a long answer for that, and I have a short answer for that. The short answer is yes. The long answer is we'll talk about it sometime. And so we haven't talked about that quite yet. Although I've kind of like on the phone, when I'm on the phone with him.
Was he down there with you this time?
No. This is just my own thing. Like I took a camera guy that I'm friends with from Pennsylvania, and we had a contact who lives in Merida, Mexico, and it was just us 3.
Okay.
And so I go back. I'm doing an Olmec tour with him. We're going to look at some of the Olmec sites in March.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to see every Olmec head in March, and I probably can't reveal too much, but he's like writing like a major production lecture series or something like that on the Olmecs. So I'm gonna accompany him. But anyways, he told me that he said something. He was like your Cosmic Summit friends will like this, and because he doesn't really like necessarily buy into everything that we buy into, but he's all for it. Yeah. He's very skeptical, but he's a good guy, and he was like so. Just like the mysteries in Egypt, the older the blocks get, the bigger they get. And I said, seriously? Are you? I was like, really? And he's like, you need to get to El Mirador. And I was like, why is that? And he's like, well, you can't really find photos of it, but if you go down and you look at the base of the pyramid platform, the blocks there are as big as the ones in Egypt. And he's been to Egypt, and I was like, no way. And I was like, I gotta look this up. And he was like, you're not really gonna find. He's like, you're not gonna find anything.
I wonder if that means that the foundations were discovered by the Maya.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
Possible?
It's not. This is not something that is studied whatsoever. Like if we try to look up megalithic blocks at El Mirador, we wouldn't find any photos, but if you dig far enough back, you'd find a paper that I just found while I was there. I got some photos of some foundations. Where I was at was 25 or like 40 kilometers north of El Mirador. So you're seeing some similar architecture. And when I was there, and I'll publish them soon, I got some photos of some megalithic blocks that you can't. I mean, there's nobody going down there to photograph this specific stuff, but I found a paper published by an archaeologist named Richard Hansen, and all he does is just very briefly touch on the very ordinarily sized blocks at El Mirador. So I should preface this by saying El Mirador was settled in about 600 BC. So that's like pretty far back, like remote history in as far as the Maya go. That's really far back.
So this is like their early period.
This is their early period.
Okay.
This is like the Old Kingdom. So
Okay,
so the way in Egypt you have pre-dynastic, Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom, and then you get into like
classic.
Yeah.
classical.
So I'm just saying how like archaeologists kind of break it down. In the Maya world, you have like prehistoric Maya, pre-classic, classic, and post-classic.
Okay,
so
that's what it is.
Yeah,
So-
so he went through this with us last time.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten it.
I said
Oh, that's
classic.
okay,
but
that's okay.
classic is later.
it's
That's
pre-classic.
yeah, no, it's okay.
Prehistoric.
So
You have a mute button, by the way, right there by your foot if you need to use it.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you,
Hey, Lala C,
You have to-
$50. Thank you.
you have to push it. He's like,
We're getting snorts
Yeah,
of
that's-
derision from Luke.
The sniffle button. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a sniffler bad, especially. in
you're
the
a
winter.
broadcast specialist, bro. Don't worry about it.
Oh man, I don't make any mistakes.
That's right. 0 mistakes.
Look, the Watcher has posted up here that there are 6,750 ancient structures identified at Calakmul.
Yeah, that's just at Kalak Mul though. Like it doesn't stop. It does not stop, guys. Like it's insane. It doesn't stop. So you have Kalak Mul, you have the whole biosphere right here. You have Kalak Mul dead in the middle, and maybe like right here they identify 6,000. If you go beyond that, you just keep finding them. It doesn't stop.
Oh.
You know, it just goes on forever. Like
So
it's
is
not
it-
there aren't vast swaths of empty land out there. It's all populated. Like I couldn't understand it
So
until
they
I was
could
there.
not possibly have been worshiping at that many places.
Oh hell no!
Come on.
No. There was so much
It's
more.
like it's a place of worship. It was a
Yeah.
temple. It's like so every building they just built like nothing but temples.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
it's-
think so.
No, I don't think so either. So getting back to what Richard Hansen, what he published in this paper, he said he was talking about. I think he's like the conspicuous. I think he calls them like monoliths or whatever. But he said it was something like conspicuous consumption. He was like they were so powerful during this time of the pre-classic Maya. The city was so powerful that they were creating blocks bigger than they needed to like show off their wealth. That's all he addresses it as. That's it. There
Okay.
isn't anything else.
So
dude.
he's making an assumption about
The
that
reason why
why they're doing it. How can he possibly know?
Oh yeah, well of course. And so I've looked into that. I found a couple other things. So when I was there, when I was in Palenque in January, I was going down through. So the foundations of all of Maya cities are built on a platform. Like it's like a pyramidal. If you cut the lower 5th level of Khufu's pyramid, like you just cut that slice out and built a city on top of that. That's what Maya cities are like. So it kind of prevents flooding, is what they think. You know, they got to build everything up on a platform. And so inside those platforms, there are tunnels though, and the tunnels will like funnel the water through. Like they had their own plumbing, kind of like Rome did and stuff.
Wow.
And I was, and I mean, the Maya is still like a frontier of archaeology and a frontier of exploration because you can't find answers to this exactly. So I was going through there and I've got some photos and I really need to go back and take better photos because it was just so in the moment and I didn't think of it. The blocks that are down in these aqueducts in the platforms are like this big.
they're huge.
They're huge,
Yeah.
dude. And I don't see anybody in any of the books that I have that address Maya architecture or anything like that. It's mostly over like Maya architecture is super detailed and intricate. It's like probably meant to represent, you know, what they were seeing when they were on psychedelics. They're like building it into the sides of their temples. That's what it's all about when you read books about it. I never see anything about these giant blocks that are built in the base of their pyramids. And they just found, do you remember last time I was here and I took you guys through the story of the Temple of Inscriptions, like Pakal's tomb?
Yep.
Yeah.
So they just found tunnels underneath the pyramid.
Okay.
that might be connected to the tomb, but these tunnels go underneath it, and the tunnels started getting so slim that they had to send robots in. But in the photos, and I got photos of it today, the blocks again are like this big.
So wait, these are constructed tunnels?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
these are
yeah,
tunnels
yeah.
in the bedrock.
Yeah, with like square blocks, like
They're
perfectly
constructed.
cut.
So they are
square
constructed.
blocks.
I was going to say.
And there's no mortar. Like in a lot of Maya constructions from 1500 to 2000 years ago, they would build the
Use
interior. Yeah, they would build the interior of the walls out of like rubble and mortar, and then they'd have like really nice casing stones all the way around it. But when you look at the platforms, it's not built with mortar. It's like square cut blocks, like placed on top of each other.
Yeah.
And
Have they found any quarries?
they
Yeah, that
think
was-
they found
That
yeah,
was the next question, because if you're like, you've got this huge flat area and it's basically just barely above the water level, then where are they getting the rock from?
they
Cenotes.
they think that they've
Just
you can look it up. You can look it up. They have found some quarries, but also it's hard to find quarries because the jungle just like grows over
Takes
it.
'em
You know
over.
what I mean? So you're walking around and there's like a dip in the ground, but you're like, I don't know if this is a quarry or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really tough to see it. I got one thing on video. I'm pretty sure I found I'm pretty sure that this was a quarry right next to like the very last place that we went. We had a contact who he didn't speak any English at all, but he took like my team and I about 40 miles away from Calakmul, and we stop on the side of the road and we walk maybe an hour into the forest, and we come across this big city that he had heard about, and he had visited it once before. And I'm pretty sure that the very first thing that we got on camera was a massive quarry. Like it was just this giant hole in the ground. And I was looking at it like trying to think like, what is this? And then it hits me like maybe a few minutes later. I'm like, this is a quarry, because I can see these big blocks laying off to the side, and I'm thinking like, I'm trying to like,
yeah, bro.
I'm trying to identify a structure here.
Yeah, you can't.
But
yeah.
no, it's just a big hole in the ground. And I look up and there's a giant pyramid coming like the side of a
So
pyramid
that
coming
was
out of
the
a hole.
quarry for that structure.
Not just that, for 16 pyramids, and I got it
Wow.
all on video. It's
Oh,
it's like
man.
35 minutes long.
I saw that little video snippet of you. You're just like, dude, I'm at the top of a pyramid right now, and you're like, and look here, and you show the video around you, look out, and it's just nothing but jungle, and then there's just pyramids sticking up out of the jungle.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
like, bro.
what I was about to say is that those pyramids are the same size as the ones at Calakmul, which is like, you ask any Mesoamerican archaeologist, they're gonna be like, yeah, of course I know what Calakmul is. That's like Calakmul would be like similar significance to like Memphis, Egypt. You know what I mean? It's a
okay.
very significant place.
Yeah.
The site that I was at was called Bekan, and it's not a well-known site at all. It gets in the entire day that we were there, they had 3 visitors, and it was us.
Wow.
And that was it. And we paid them like 30 cents to be there. That was it. And I climbed straight up the sheer side of this pyramid, and the pyramid that I was on was the same size as the ones at Calakmul. So they're all big like that.
Oh my
they're
God.
all huge. It's
Well,
crazy, man.
This is awesome, dude. Break time already.
Yep.
Yep. We'll be right back, folks.
Cool.
With Luke Caverns.
right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, Brothers of the Serpent Podcast live. 0 mistakes.
Fierce.
Flawless. All host duties executed flawlessly every single time. And we're back here with Luke Caverns. We got the Watcher with us, having a great time. And of course, this is always a fascinating topic. Ancient undiscovered cities and structures out in the jungle. Just like we talked about last time.
Yep.
We're going to do this with you, bro.
Yeah.
I definitely want to
man.
go. We're doing it. We've been talking about it. Got a lot on the agenda in 2024.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's got to happen. I mean, I got to go with you and see all this stuff. So
I think 2024 is going to be a huge year for everybody in our circle. You know, like
Probably, yeah.
it just you guys are going to Egypt for forever.
Yep.
And
Basically for forever.
yeah, it's gonna be exciting. And then Cosmic is gonna be huge. And then we've got Eclipse.
Yep.
Eclipse at the
Yeah,
Eclipse
yeah.
at the canyon.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be really fun.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
You guys have been planning that for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was Darren's idea.
Yeah.
Darren of Grimerica. I guess they witnessed what happened when the eclipse, the path of totality came through their area, or at least an area close to them. And they were like, dude, we need to set something up. So it's kind of been in the planning for years. And it was just like, I mean, even I think 2 years before the event, I was calling around to try to find porta potties, and they were all sold out for those dates
Whoa!
already.
Really?
So yeah, and then like we have NASA is doing a big thing here, and it's like it's crazy trying to get things you need for those dates. But anyways, we're doing it.
Are we going to have a pendulum? That's the question.
I don't know, but we're having a comedy show now.
Really?
We got
I
some
heard that. You're going to do
comedians
some
coming.
stand-up.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a group of comedians coming, so we're throwing that in there. And then Laura was thinking about, oh God, what was the thing? Oh, she's thinking about renting a big ass telescope,
Ooh.
which would be badass.
Yeah,
too.
that would be super cool.
So I'll have Dave Matheson there. He can do some.
Well, it needs a solar filter then if we're going to do that for sure too.
Well, yeah, for the eclipse, but
Yeah,
also
for stargazing.
I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
be great stargazing.
Do we know what the moon cycle is going to be that night?
Well, it's going to be with the sun, so it'll
Oh,
be gone.
yeah.
Yeah, the moon's like literally in front of
gonna-
the
yeah,
sun
yeah,
that day.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, guys.
couldn't
Hey,
let that go.
Ed
But
Foo, 30
Yeah,
bucks.
I think there's
Thank
an
you.
eclipse that day.
literally a new moon. So,
No stupid questions. That's right. We're only experts.
total professionals here. So yeah, the star. Not only do we have the eclipse, but the stargazing is obviously going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's Utopia, Texas, one of the greatest. I mean, it's a beautiful place to look at the stars.
Hopefully, it won't be cloudy.
I don't stress me out. I've been sweating bullets.
I know.
I'm just like, man. Like, what if it's just raining
For
the
the
whole
annular,
time?
yeah, for the
Oh,
annular eclipse,
man.
we went and it was cloudy. Like it started getting cloudy in the morning, and then it got more and more cloudy, and then I could see the eclipse taking place through the clouds, and it just miraculously, completely cleared up right as it became total, and
Yeah.
there was a big clear circle right there where the sun
Yeah.
was.
And good luck getting event insurance for acts of God, which include
Right.
just cloudiness.
Yeah.
Like, oh God.
Yeah.
I get too stressed to even think about it. So let's move on. The other thing we have is the Cosmic Summit, which I don't have
Yep.
to plan and deal with, which is
Yes.
great.
All we gotta do is show
I
up.
just can show up.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. On a side note, real quick, did you know that in Mexico they are telling people to watch your back during the time of the eclipse because people get kidnapped and sacrificed to Mesoamerican gods on the eclipses. I
I'm
swear,
sorry
dude.
to laugh at that. That's
Oh
not
my
funny at
God,
all.
I got this on video too. We went into.
They just don't want you to look at the eclipse.
Yeah.
That seems like a plot.
we
Like,
went in
keep
we
you-
went into a pyramid, and we got this on video, and I was like speechless. I just stopped what I was talking about, and there were animal bones inside of a pyramid. So we know that there are like sacrificial cash offerings. It's just obvious, like you can tell the kind of room that you're in, and the ceiling is like burnt with soot, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
From
okay. Yeah.
2,000 years of sacrificing stuff there. And dude, there was a fresh animal carcass inside of this sacrificial tomb looking thing, and we got it all on video. So they still sacrifice animals to Maya, Aztec gods, like Mesoamerican gods. And so people who follow
Wait. Did you determine the cause of death of the animal?
I tried to, but it was like pulled apart like bone by bone. It was just bones.
All right. Well, you could be right,
Yeah.
but I mean, unless there's a lot of hillbillies out here sacrificing animals in caves, I've found quite a few like pretty freshly dead animals in caves.
Oh no.
In
No,
Texas.
this was in a Maya temple, like inside of a pyramid that we were going through.
Yeah,
But-
so I guess he's suggesting the animal could get in there, get lost, and die.
Or just go in there to die.
Yeah. Sometimes they do crawl into holes to die.
It could be.
So I'm just saying, you know, if you did a forensic analysis,
Yeah. It could be, but it looked super obvious what was going on. Like
Okay.
it was like a
like on the altar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
It was-
little odd.
It was like a plethora of bones stacked in one place, and I never saw anything else like that the entire time I was there. And I went in a ton of temples, so it was like
Somebody worships the old gods.
yeah. It was extraordinary enough that I was like, whoa, I knew exactly what it was.
Wow.
And then so the guy that we were traveling with who lives there, I told him about it, and he's like, oh yeah, man, when the eclipses come around, they tell people to be careful because that's really the only time that like people get sacrificed, and it's usually not people willingly being sacrificed.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, man, and especially people
That's crazy.
especially people who follow like Aztec religion, because the Maya, they sacrificed their own. So, you know, in the Maya world, it was an honor to be sacrificed. In the Aztec world, they kidnap people to sacrifice them. So you kind of have this like, you know, you don't really have to worry about Maya people sacrificing you, but people who are Aztec, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Okay, you're an anthropologist. Do you think that the civilization or the culture that developed this amazing, like all this amazing architecture and these structures and this symbolism, this body of work, is the same culture that sacrifices people to eclipses? Or because I don't, that is weird to me. Those two things seem to conflict to me.
So the Maya world is our interpretation of like the Mesoamerican savage, kind of like these like really, really brutal, violent people who sacrifice people, you know, on the solar eclipse. A lot of that comes from Spanish contact with the Aztecs. The Aztecs were very, very vicious people, very brutal people, and they fell because they made enemies with everyone around them.
Yeah.
The Maya were different. The Maya were very, very different. When they sacrificed people, they sacrificed people much in the same way that like Judeo-Christian people, or I guess like Judaic people before Jesus Christ sacrificed their animals. Like it was like this person knows
It was
that
an
they're
offering.
Yeah, it was an offering, and the person did it willingly and like regrettably so. Like they would mourn these people after they were sacrificed. And so in the Maya world, it was done like at certain epochs, at certain times, and they could calculate like solar eclipses and stuff. And so it'd be a huge event that was set up, and they would sacrifice their one of their greater people. So like if you were the prettiest woman in the village, it was an honor for you to be sacrificed. And then the people like immortalized you and deified you after you died. It was a huge thing. Whereas the Aztecs didn't sacrifice any of their own people. They slaughtered other people and sacrificed them like thousands of people, on a regular basis. There was a Spaniard who recorded that like on a on a solar eclipse like this one that's coming up in April, that they sacrificed 80,000 people in one day, all from neighboring tribes. So
that's what the movie Apocalypto is based on.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a good movie.
Like the blood was piling up at the base of the. I mean, it's a terrible description.
yeah, and the Aztecs really were like that.
Yeah.
That's why they were conquered by Europeans, because they had no allies. But the Maya had fallen. Really, they had fallen quite a long time before. Some Maya people were still around, but really their culture had fallen for some reason quite a long time before Europeans ever showed up. So we really don't know a whole lot about the Maya. And when Spaniards did arrive in Merida, they sent out these big expeditions, and they gathered up all of their codices and piled them all up into pyres and burned hundreds of thousands of books, and only 4 remain today. So we really don't know a lot about the actual people that were there. So probably we view them with a bit more of a savage lens than they were. This was a civilization.
It seems like it. Yeah, you're talking about like they had massive, sprawling metropolis.
Of course,
right? Like this.
Yeah.
This whole area is a giant city with suburbs and villages all clustered around it.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah,
everywhere. It wasn't a like a completely, utterly, devastatingly savage place to live. They were probably a lot more civil than I think like Westerners view them today, and that's really just because we only have direct witnesses of people who interacted with the Aztecs. But the Aztecs and the Maya have nothing to do with each other. They have no blood relation at all. People don't realize that. Like, they think that the Aztecs may have come from the Maya. The Aztecs came from somewhere in the United States and drifted down, and they were like a savage, marauding, like mercenary tribe, and they kept getting kicked out of all the places that they wanted to live because they were just savage people. And they eventually ended up in the Valley of Mexico and just terrorized people. And eventually they were given this place to live, which is like on this island in the middle of I think it's Lake Texcoco. And they built the city of Tenochtitlan there, and then eventually conquered and slaughtered all of the people around them. And so by the time the Spaniards show up, all the other natives are like, "Yeah, go get them! Like, take down the Aztecs."
Take those guys down.
So they did everything they could to help the Spaniards take down the Aztecs, whereas the Maya had already been gone for several hundred years before that. Like the very end of the Maya had already been gone. So
are you saying then that the human sacrifice, like, in other words, it was part of the builders and the developers of the culture that led to this massive, sprawling, beautiful cities and architecture, but it was a totally different thing than what the sort of popular culture idea of sacrificing people on temples was.
Yeah, I've seen it related. I've seen it kind of related to like Abraham taking Isaac to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's that kind of sacrifice. It's very like stoic. This is an offering that will save everyone. You know what I mean? It's for people's salvation. It's so that, the rain keeps coming. It's so that we still have crops. You know what I mean? Like, they had to give up something really, really valuable and something that hurt them.
Where did they get that idea?
Man, I have no idea.
That is strange that, like, all these places, like this place that seems to have been cut off from, the Far East or the, or the Near East, the Middle East, somewhere over there, but they were doing the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
And the idea was that somebody was asking for that. Like, it wasn't, it's not like they believed that they were giving that ram to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, man. I think there's an underappreciated connection of some kind. Like, I mean, we all feel this way, that there is something that's linking people, like linking it, at the very least, linking ideas across continents. You know what I mean? It's amazing that so many people feel the same things. And I definitely think that there's something to do with psychedelics, like, mixed into everything. That's if I'm getting like way out there speculative, and I think a lot of people agree with me. A lot of people I talk to in person agree with this probably has something to do with it. We know that these people were experimenting with like hallucinogenic, formulas, like putting them together, and that a lot of their murals, a lot of their art comes from, having their mind kind of quote unquote expanded by, psychedelics. And so we know that. Have you guys ever seen like Greek murals and patterns that go along like the outside of pots? How
Yes.
it's like these geometrical patterns.
Yeah.
The Maya came up with the same pattern.
Around their pots.
The exact same pattern.
I know this pattern. It's
It's this kind of thing, and it goes. It's like the little square waves,
Yes.
and they go along the top of Greek temples as well. They go along Maya pots and temples as well. Zapotec temples, Toltec temples, Aztec temples. You see this, everywhere.
So the argument with like the archaeological community is like, well, pyramids were like the easiest structure to make. If you wanted to make a tall structure, the easiest way to do it was to make a pyramid.
Yeah.
But you can't say the same thing about sacrifices. Like the idea of a well, that's just the easiest religious idea to come up with. No, that's not actually.
No, it's a bizarre idea.
It's a bizarre idea.
Yeah.
But it's so commonplace and it's so well known through the study of archaeology and in even modern religions, just because we have these preserved ancient texts that talk about this, that when we see it in the Mayan culture or something like that, it's just like, oh yeah, sacrifice, of course. But who came up with that? And the fact that it was come up with everywhere is so strange.
Yeah, man, I have literally no idea, and I don't think that I don't think well, obviously I don't think anybody knows in Mesoamerica, but it's just so strange. Like, where would that come from?
But if that was due to hallucinogens or because people do have common experiences no matter where you are, that is really strange, because I've done hallucinogens. I've never had that.
You never like wanted to sacrifice somebody you love.
No.
I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I know that there's that's an interesting idea, that there is some of these ideas may come from that type of thing, but I don't know. It's pretty specific.
No, it definitely is. And man, maybe there's as speculative as I try to be as an anthropologist, there are some what I've done is I've kind of gone back and forth in how I feel about things, just depending on like how far down a certain rabbit hole I go.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm really hung up on is not to derail the conversation.
No, it's fine.
But
this is what this podcast is all
about. One of the things I'm really hung up on is the Olmec handbag. Have you seen this?
Yep.
Maybe. Watcher, can you get us a picture of that?
That is so absolutely strange that exact same image can be seen. I believe it's seen at Tiwanaku, or it's seen in Bolivia as well. Where else is the handbag seen?
It's seen at Göbekli Tepe on the Vulture Stone. It's in like it's either the Akkadian or
Assyrian,
Babylonian,
Babylonian, Sumerian.
Mm-hmm.
It's
depictions of the guys that they're kind of wearing the wristwatches looking things, and they're holding the bag and they're holding the pine cone or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at that, I mean, that is
this guy is holding.
So what's interesting is this, they think, dates back between 1300 and 900 BC in the Olmec world, and this is the very first time that we see the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. But what's really interesting is you don't see an evolution.
So where is his? Oh, there it is. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
look how unambiguously a handbag that is. I mean, that's not anything. That's not anything other than a handbag. And why that? And why do we see that at the very beginning of Mesoamerican civilization?
That is a beautiful carving. Look at this serpent.
Dude, this is, you want to know something crazy? This is the first carving. This is the first carving in Mesoamerica.
No way.
It's one of the oldest.
It wasn't this guy's first
Look
carving.
at this headgear helmet thing.
Yeah,
he's wearing.
I know.
Like a snake
and
ram
this
thing.
this
Total
Kukulkan,
VR headset. Look at that thing.
this serpent dragon that's over him is like one of the most iconic gods of Mesoamerica. To the Aztecs, he was known as Quetzalcoatl. To the Maya, he was known as Kukulkan. This is the very first time he's depicted. How does a civilization depict their god in such a stylistic, like symmetrical, very pleasing to the eye way on their first try in basalt?
Yeah,
or
I was gonna
basalt
say
stone?
this does not. Yeah, this is not limestone for sure.
This particular depiction of the whatever you want to call it, the handbag thing, I've seen people refer to them as bells.
Oh, Bill, that's kind of.
But it looks to me the way he's holding this one out in front of him like that is almost like it's a lantern or a light. But yeah, I don't know. It's
or he's giving it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Could be giving it, but it looks like he's on some kind of journey, like he's sitting in a boat. This is what I'm imagining because I've seen pictures of this as well. These guys sitting in boats with the volcanoes going off in the background, and it's like he's moving forward with this, and he's holding it up like it's a light. I don't know. It's an interesting depiction the way he's holding it specifically.
And this is where Mesoamerica begins. It starts like this.
Yeah.
There's no we don't know anything that dates back as far as like a monumental stone like stone artwork. There isn't anything that goes back beyond this. This is where it all begins, and it begins with a freaking handbag. Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
And so as rational as a quote unquote anthropologist as I try to be, I see this and I'm like, dude, what the hell is that?
Have you looked at high resolution images of this thing?
No, but I will take high resolution
You're gonna
images
go see it.
when I see it in March.
Because this guy's face even looks strange. I mean, I can't see it real well.
I know, and it's interesting that mask like thing he's got on, and I don't even know what's on his head.
It looks like an animal face hit there with maybe horns, like deer or something.
Yeah.
But then, of course, this almost looks like a serpent body.
Yeah, and there's some kind of ear that's attached to
He
it.
definitely hasn't had coffee. Look at he's grumpy.
He is grumpy.
Yeah, you can tell he's templed out.
So it's
It's awesome.
it's really, really strange. So I'm gonna get a really high resolution video and
Scan. You guys
photo
scan
of this. So it's a really strange carving, and it's where Mesoamerica all begins. You know, this is when they first start making artwork. It looks like this.
Wow.
You know, so and then at the same time they're moving 40-ton Olmec heads, supposedly by riverboat. I'm trying to think of the type of wood. It begins with a B.
Balsa?
Balsa by balsa river
wood.
rafts.
Yeah.
And so they're supposedly moving them by balsa river rafts. But what's crazy is, I think I've seen that.
Oh, here's another depiction Watchers put up.
Yeah, look at that,
Okay,
man.
so he's got the other ones up here. Let me pull these up too, and we'll show them. But keep going.
Well, it's funny, yeah. When you show that, I mean, that is the same bag.
Yeah.
It's the same bag. Like even the design on the bag is the same.
Yeah.
How
it's
can
wild.
I like?
How Watcher, these images are tiny.
Yeah. What's wrong with you, bro?
I need like pick the largest image you can find, or maybe they shrink when you put it in the chat. I don't know.
There's even the horizontal lines that go across the bag. You see that on the other ones as well. Wow, look at that.
So is this a different one?
No, it's
that's
the
the
same
same
one.
carving.
It's the same one,
okay.
just in different lighting, I guess. So yeah, I cannot wait to see this one in person. I'm gonna get
look
some
at his
really
face.
good video of this. So
Yeah.
now it looks like I think he's wearing. I think that's depicting he's wearing this like the skull of a jaguar on his head.
Is he may be holding scrolls here,
Yeah. He's definitely holding something else. Or
like in his arms?
Yeah, he's holding something. To me, it looks like
I got my cursor in the wrong place.
just my
Jeez.
initial like my first thought when I look at this is I think he's like being carried by the serpent, like the serpent's going underneath him and he's like
Yes.
sitting inside.
that's
of it.
why I was imagining it was a boat. But you're right. He is.
Yeah, look, the serpent has a rattle. It's actually
Yeah.
a
But
rattle.
see how his legs
Mhm.
are going up, right? So the serpent's coming around him. So yeah, I was imagining it was some kind of craft.
It's
or
a
boat.
craft.
Yeah.
and then the
God,
part
that's
on
so
his
cool.
head is so strange
Yeah.
too. But looking
Got a
at
couple of monitors up there.
So yeah, okay. This now is looking like the head of something else, and that's its open mouth. The
Yeah, he
guy's
was saying it was a
face.
jaguar skull.
but
okay.
now look, it has the same brow as the serpent as well. So
You're
it could
right,
just be
yeah.
like a serpent
It could be
mask of some
yes,
kind.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is, so a lot like the crowns, the Egyptian crowns, like the hejets or the Egyptian, the other like flowing things that they wore, we don't have any evidence of this. We've never found like these masks and these jaguar mask head things that their kings would have wore, whoever, whatever. We've never found any evidence of that. All we see is it in stone carvings. So
Yes, there's no. You talking about the Egyptian crowns? There's none of that stuff.
yeah, we haven't found
Okay,
any of
this
those,
is-
and we
yeah.
haven't found any of these Olmec mask helmet looking things.
Oh, okay.
So here the Watchers found this. Wow, I mean, somebody actually did the work for
Yeah,
us.
people
here.
have done comparisons to this for sure. Yeah.
And so, I look at this, and as objective as I try to be, I mean, I see people, on YouTube, like, those people they're like making a name for themselves being debunkers.
Yes.
Like that's such a thing. It's just like tailcoat riding people who are
Yeah.
actually talking about stuff that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
I would say that this is the only one that's really questionable as to whether or not these are quote unquote handbags. I mean,
Yeah.
yes,
They're not
they're
being
the same
held by
shape, but they're
anything.
not being held. They're at the top. They're at the capital, this is where the, if these pillars are sort of, what do they call it? Anthropomorphic or whatever. This is the head. So it's kind of in the wrong place. Normally the hands are down here. So I don't know. I mean, that's an interest. I mean, they do look like these.
gosh,
but
yeah.
And they have animal symbols. They're hard to see in
Yeah,
these
there's an
pictures, but
animal
there's an
there.
animal there. There's animals kind of off to the sides of them and behind them. Like there's a, Martin Sweatman suggested that these are sunrises or sunsets.
Yeah.
So they're saying
showing the solstice.
Yeah,
the two
the sun
solstices
rises
on
with
either
the bull
side and
behind
the
it.
equinox in the middle.
yeah,
Really, what do you guys think of that?
I mean, I think it's brilliant.
it's a
idea.
possible idea. It's just, I think it's just as likely as their handbags.
Yeah.
Especially if there's animal symbols back there. It's saying like the sun rises when Taurus is on the horizon, and that's telling you what the age is.
Interesting. So Gobekli Tepe, is it possible that our current understanding of like our astrology, the constellations that we recognize, they're recognizing the same thing?
Yeah.
That's the case that Martin Sweatman is
He
making.
actually made the case that it goes all the way back to Chauvet Cave, like so we're
Yeah,
talking 40,000
years.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
I mean, so it's all about like how you see that pattern of bright stars in the sky. When it's like hazy or the sky is not crystal clear, you're just gonna see those bright stars.
yeah,
So-
of course. That's a great.
But
yeah.
and so of course they would recognize those, and of course the ones that are important are on the ecliptic, so they're all going to be looking at the same star, like clusters of stars. But the question is, do they connect the dots the same way
And
over
say
40,000
that
years?
particular group is a bull, right?
Yeah.
But they will notice that they're on the ecliptic. It's on, this
Yeah.
is on a very specific plane in the geometry of the
The planets travel through there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the sun and the moon pass through that same area of bright stars. So
Yeah.
it's
So
like,
it would be considered significant because this is where these gods are moving around in the sky, or whatever, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be such an easy thing that can be passed down. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at a certain point in time, you have a major city or a group of people who recognize something in that specific way.
Yeah.
Why would it ever change beyond that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And at the same time, you look at some of those constellations and you're like, why is that supposed to be a dog?
Oh, yeah,
'cause
yeah,
it's-
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well,
true.
And sometimes like kind of like what you were saying on a night where it's cloudy or the visibility isn't high, especially for us in the modern day, we may not be seeing all the stars that makes the constellation so clear.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
that's
like
right.
like if you
Well,
look at sorry.
I'm just saying that I've been to dark sky locations on very clear nights. It's harder to see
because there's so
the
much.
very recognizable
Yeah.
Because there's so
constellations
many
because
stars.
there's so many bright stars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're just like,
Where is
where
it? Where is the constellation?
Big Dipper, which
Yeah.
is like the easiest one to find. It's so hard to find. Whereas if there's a little bit of light pollution, like the moon is out, low on the horizon or
Yeah.
something, the bright stars stick out, and then it's very easy to make out the constellations.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of where my point was.
Have y'all seen the constellation that's like supposed to be a polar bear? Have you seen this? It's impossible to identify it in the sky. There's no way that you can
The
see
Great
it.
Bear?
Maybe that's what it is.
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
Big Dipper. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
It's supposed to be like this giant bear. And it's like,
Ursa Major.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Yeah,
You know,
and Ursa Minor. They don't.
it took me a long time just to see my sign, like Leo. It took me a long time to identify that in the sky because it looks like more like a coat hanger than it does.
Well, that's
a lion.
So that's the what is it? An asterism.
Yeah.
So you can use the asterism of something you easily recognize to memorize where it is.
Yeah.
And I did that same thing because it looked like a coat hanger, but over time, like I started to piece the rest of it together, and now it's like it always looks like a lion to me, or you know, because I've like seen, you know, okay, there's his leg, try to figure it all out.
That's star. You've propagandized yourself.
Yes,
Star propaganda.
I've put that symbolism into, and so now when I see it, that's what
You're
I
like,
see.
yes, it's a lion.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I find really compelling about the like the ancient Sphinx, you know, that theory that the Sphinx goes back to
Might have been a lion.
that goes back to, you know, 10,500 BC, when it would have been looking
The age
directly
of Leo.
at Leo. Yeah. That, I feel like, man, that just, you know, obviously your Orthodox academics are not even going to entertain that idea. But it's just one of those things that just makes sense. Like, you barely even have to argue it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely is a lion. And in 10,500 BC, which isn't that long ago, when you look at the horrific shape that the Sphinx is in,
Yes.
you know what I mean? It's totally possible, in my opinion, that it's that old. And sometimes I think that argument is easier than anything else in Egypt. You know, as far as like, I think you could reasonably win. I think that argument will be won before anything else is won, because the Sphinx is like unambiguously really old and really decrepit, you know. And so
Ben was recently there looking at other erosional aspects of the limestone blocks from the same period of what, like, that is supposed to be the same period as, I can't remember, you know, what the exact period was. But there are other structures there made out of limestone from that same period that are like in perfect condition. But these megalithic blocks that are dated to the same time are like heavily eroded.
Yeah.
So it's like, and they are contemporary with the Sphinx and the Sphinx enclosure. And it's like, no.
That's the problem.
How can you have these perfectly preserved ones in the same place as these ones that are just gigantic stones that are incredibly eroded?
Another problem with that I don't think I'm sure Ben knows about this, but I haven't seen where he's mentioned it, if he has. But you know,
I may have just scooped him on that. I think he talked about it on his last podcast, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where you guys got together?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope he did.
Yeah, well, he did, and then I think I saw him, like, I kind of tuned into one of his live streams for a second, and I think he was talking about something along those lines as well. But another thing about the Sphinx that I haven't seen a lot of people mention is that, you know, Orthodox Egyptologists, you know, they just brush this stuff off, but they say, well, you know, it's been, you know, the Sphinx has been there for 4,500 years. That's 4,500 years of, you know, there were possibly some times that the Nile flooded and it wore down that area. Or, you know, obviously they say wind and sand, which is BS. But there was only actually about 1,100 years at the most that the Sphinx was naked. It was covered up during the Middle to New Kingdom. It was buried during that time. So it's not 4,500 years. It's 1,000 years that they make us believe that kind of erosion would have happened there, which I just don't buy for a second.
Yep.
So
I agree with that. Is it break time?
Yep.
I hear the music. All right. We'll be right back, folks. Thanks for sticking with us.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And that was Sphinx by $50 Dynasty. Just so happened to be playing in the background when Kyle kicked up the break music there.
All the music is on loop, so I never know what's going to be on.
Yeah, it's just playing in the background, and then when he just starts turning it up slowly, and Sphinx just happened to be playing. So
There's a synchronicity.
Very synchronous there.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, like, this is the problem. Like, I agree with you that the Sphinx is a very good piece of evidence for older dates in Egypt. But if you look at the plateau, especially the large structures and the way the Sphinx is linked to them, if you say it is much older, then the entire dating philosophy of the whole plateau collapses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you
yeah,
have,
of course.
If it is that old, then so is the Middle Pyramid, and so is the Causeway, and so is the Sphinx Temple, and maybe the Valley Temple, and then all of a sudden everything collapses. It all falls apart.
Yeah, yeah. It's all webbed together because why would the Sphinx exist there with on its own?
And structurally they're connected, right? So it's like the blocks that were mined out of the Sphinx enclosure were used to build the Sphinx Temple, and like you can't redate the Sphinx without redating a whole bunch of stuff. And then suddenly Khufu doesn't have a pyramid, and Khafre doesn't have a pyramid, and Menkaure doesn't have a pyramid. And you're like, well, how can we say that if those guys didn't build pyramids, that these other dudes were doing it? And, which it needs to happen. I'm not saying this is a reason why it shouldn't happen, but this, I think, is part of the reason why it doesn't.
Yeah. It's a fascinating study. Like even as objective as I try to be, I dive into it, and then there are things that, things that I come across that I just can't quite explain, like what I've been diving into recently, and the thing I'm probably most excited to see when I go to Egypt, I'm going to try to figure out a way to get there next year, is I want to see the Osirian. That's the one that I really want to see, and I know you touched on it.
Yeah.
In Unfinished.
Yeah.
And man, I've been diving into it, and I came across a really good. So I'm interested in Egyptology, like just the study of the history of Egypt, as much as I am anything else. I just find all of it interesting, and if you find a really good like lecturer or professor who's pretty objective, you'll get a bunch of little nuggets in there of things that are really cool. And so he has a whole like 30-minute like deep dive lecture on the Osirian, and he doesn't go as far to say that it could be older than pre-dynastic Egypt, but he outright disagrees that is a new kingdom site. Like so they say what is it? Seti the First, yeah. And so he builds all these nice temples, and then he goes out to Abydos and builds the Osirian to the god Osiris. And but the thing is, you don't see those kind of megaliths anywhere in the New Kingdom. Not even once. That's the only time that you see something like that. And the only thing that they use to attribute to him is like, did you guys see this when you were there? That there's like this megalith that's cracked down the middle, and he used like some I don't know exactly what it is, but he used like some kind of I don't even know. He like repaired it, and then he carved his name into the repair. Have you guys seen this? This
is in the Osirian?
It is, yeah. There's a block that's cracked, and I don't know. It's like it's like an ancient tool of some kind. But Seti went in there, and he basically bolstered these two blocks together and put a bunch of
plaster on it.
No, not that. It's like bronze or something.
Yeah,
and
a keystone cut, a dovetail.
A keystone, that might be what it is. Yeah. And he drills it into both sides, and it holds the blocks together.
Okay, so there is a block that is broken, or at least it's broken in half. It's one of the blocks that goes across the top.
Like a lintel, kind of?
Yeah, that has that giant keystone sticking out of it.
Yeah.
And Seti has his, if that's the one that I'm thinking of, I got to see it in person.
That's the only one I can think of that I saw.
He has his name carved on that keystone.
Okay.
And so Egyptologists go, oh, well, of course he built this. Yeah. He had to build this site. But Bob Breyer, this Egyptologist, he goes, no. He didn't build that. He is taking credit for the repair of an ancient site. Yeah. Because if it was his site, and he was able to move all these blocks, he would have gotten rid of that block and boom, put something else there.
Yeah, put a new
He's
in
taking
there.
credit for repairing an ancient monument. That's why he put his name on that little keystone.
On the repair.
And he's like also, and I think Ben disagrees with this. But when he's building his temple at Abydos, that's right next to the Osirion, he's building it in the same like straight format where you've got two temples and some kind of like courtyard in the middle. He's building his temple in that format, and he thinks that Seti discovered the Osirion, that it was already buried over, and then he had to go left.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
And so I think Ben,
the hard part to understand about that, because I've heard that, Ben's heard it as well. We've discussed it a bunch of times. Kyle, we've brought this up. The hard part to understand about that is that the Osirian is in a very specific alignment relative to the cardinal directions, right? North, south, east, and west, and it's kind of in this northeast, southwest angle. And Seti's temple is exactly on that line. So it's almost like, I think that, if he would have been building the temple and ran into it, how did they pick that? Unless there's some reason out there, some other geological reason for them to pick that particular alignment. But maybe they found the Osirian, or there were hints to them that it was there. There was something sticking out of the sand. And so they kind of cleared it out, and then they built this big temple as to be associated with it, because they clearly connected it.
Of course.
So it's, but it is difficult to understand how the alignments match if they were surprised by it.
Yeah. That makes sense. So what he's then goes on to say is that he thinks that it dates back to he basically says that
it's Old Kingdom.
That's what he says. He's like I think that this is Old Kingdom. Khafre Khufu, whoever he was like whoever built those two sites is responsible for this. It's like
it
obvious.
Looks like the Valley Temple. It looks like the Sphinx Temple. It looks like that. It looks like this stuff that's out there on Giza, out in front of the pyramids. It has the same effect when you're in it as well, and so yes, I can see how if your assumption is that those guys built those, then they must have built the Osirian, or you would just say, this is an Old Kingdom structure. It's not a New Kingdom structure. It doesn't look anything like the temples of the New Kingdom, and I completely agree with that. Yeah. The question now is like, are those really Old Kingdom structures?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it's strange that again, being anthropologist, always trying to be like as objective with myself as possible, and I never really like jump to like a complete conclusion on things, not usually, unless it's just overwhelmingly obvious. But it's just interesting, the strange chronologies in Egypt where, I don't think that anybody is arguing that that Zoser or Djoser and Imhotep built the step pyramid at Saqqara. I don't think people are arguing who built that. You go down inside that pyramid, you're in the necropolis around there. It's pretty obvious that place was built for that guy. His name is everywhere around that site. You can see Zoser like performing miracles in I think it's in one of the temples around his necropolis, or it's down in his pyramid. Wow, look at that. Oh my God. Holy crap.
Yeah.
But you can see him like performing rituals and visiting, sanctuaries in the afterlife. They even have like early pharaonic hieroglyphs carved into the limestone there. It's obviously his site. So supposedly after that, in the next, century after that, you have Senefru, who's growing up essentially in the shadow of Zoser's Great Pyramid. And, he has this dream that he wants to build a pyramid. Senefru does, quote unquote, according to the, the traditional discipline. And so Senefru is supposedly one of the greatest pharaohs in all of Egypt, erects 3 massive pyramids. The first one collapses. The second one,
the first one's at Maydum.
Yeah. Maydum, and then the second one, you've got the bent pyramid. Yeah. Supposedly 2 angular, and then he finally nails it on the 3rd try.
With the red pyramid, is it the red pyramid?
Yeah, the red pyramid, and then doesn't put his name anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's just like, why would he not do that? A dude who he had to do it 3 times.
Yeah.
And we know a lot about Senefru. We know how good of a pharaoh he was. The Egyptians revered him. There was so much written about Senefru. We know so much about his reign and about the type of person he was. and how nice he was to just normal people. And we don't see, like, you don't walk up to his pyramid and it says, here lies Senefru. Not inside the pyramid, not outside of the pyramid, not even in the temples next to his pyramid. And then it's not just him, it's his son. And then it's his grandson. And then it's his great-grandson or his great-grandson. They all build these giant pyramids, and they do not carve their own names in the pyramids.
Yeah.
How? Why? Not carved in the temples outside of the pyramids. It's just so strange that, in the early Old Kingdom, it's obvious who built the step pyramid, and then all of your great pyramids right after that, there's like this window of all the best pyramids are not directly attributed to somebody. And then you start getting into the pyramids in the later Old Kingdom, and then you start seeing like the pyramid text, and it becomes obvious who they're attributed to, but they're smaller, much smaller. So all of your incredibly large animatic pyramids are not obviously dedicated to somebody. It's a strange, that's part of the reason that I really like studying the discipline.
Maybe it's not strange.
Yeah, well, of course.
Because it wasn't there.
That's one of the reasons I really like diving into the discipline of Egypt, is because you look at things like from the other lens, and I know a lot of the history of Egypt now, and it's one, I just find all of the ancient world interesting, but when you know a lot of the particulars, you can see a lot of holes from the other side, if that makes sense. So yeah, anyways, but that's kind of.
We got a question up here.
Okay.
Zabinator is asking if you took a metal detector with you into the jungle, would you or could you?
I don't know if I could. I don't know. They're real strict out there, but I wouldn't find anything. The Maya didn't. They knew about gold, but they didn't revere it. They didn't have metals, so they were like the most advanced Stone Age culture. So they they had gold, but that gold came from South America, and there were merchant traders landing in western Mexico.
So it was the Aztecs that had all the gold stuff.
The Aztecs had the gold later on,
Okay.
when the trade routes became a lot stronger between South America and Mexico, and there were probably.
I wonder what were they trading for the gold?
I don't know. That's like West Mexico archaeology, so I'd have to look into that. But I don't know in return what the Aztecs or Western Mexicans, because you have like the Tarascans.
They're like, we'll sacrifice some slaves to the gods for you.
We'll sacrifice some of your people. It will bless you. Now give us the gold.
Jeez, what do these guys have to offer? They had a lot of gold.
I don't know. Probably things like probably maize is already down in South America at that time. Actually, maize with corn is definitely already down in South America, so they're not trading that. Maybe something like avocados, maybe psychedelics of some kind.
Oh, yeah, the Aztecs love their avocado toast.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
have that avocado toast in the morning.
So, probably some stuff like that. But I really don't know what they were trading in return.
That's interesting.
But yeah, if I had taken a metal detector, all I would find is like, I don't know, the remnants of people who have been there in the last 100 years. You know, there's a ton of sites, like even the most remote sites. I was reading like a 1998 survey of these guys who they went out like 15 miles into the jungles, just north of Guatemala, which is already 40 miles like into the remote wilderness. And even out there, they were seeing the remnants of looting, of people like So I got this on video too. So what I'm pretty sure that people were doing is they're cutting down trees in a certain way. Like, so you go up to an ancient pyramid and there'll be these big trees growing out of it. And so they'll cut the tree in a way, you cut like a little part of the tree off and then it goes, and then it rips the side of the pyramid out. And so if there's a tomb in there or some kind of chamber of some kind, it's good. You don't have to pull back all the blocks because the tree will rip half the pyramid out anyways. And so I found some evidence of that while we were there. And so, dude, even in the most remote places, some people were finding stuff out there. They were going out there on their own with, chainsaws or old, pull saws. And And people have been looting these places for like hundreds of years, going out on their own. So if I had a metal detector, I would probably only find the remnants of that. I wouldn't find gold, like Maya gold or anything like that. What they revered was jade, and so that was their priceless. Mineral material or whatever, and that only comes from one quarry in Guatemala that we know of. And there was like all kinds of expeditions to find the origins of the Stone of Kings, because they could never find where the jade quarries came from, and they come from like deep in the jungles of Guatemala. So yeah.
Have they found them?
Yeah. They found like one quarry that I know of. There's probably others, but they're very, 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 very scarce.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, and jade won't be picked up by a metal detector. It's a stone.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah, but
You need a stone detector.
Yeah.
a stone detector. Isn't there stuff like that? Like, don't they have satellites that they can? I think I saw this on. Do you guys ever watch the Mysteries of Oak Island? You ever seen that?
I haven't. I know about it. I haven't watched it.
Well, these guys are like real wealthy oil guys, and they have some satellites that they will send over certain areas that can scan the ground and tell you like where certain minerals are in the ground. Have you ever heard of this? I'm sure it's like really expensive technology, but yeah, it was like he could see like concentrations of granite and limestone.
Okay.
The only thing I could think of would
seismic.
be seismic, and it would just be based on the speed of the seismic wave.
You can tell
where it reflects back or whatever. They could tell a difference in density and that sort of thing.
I don't know if that gets particular enough that you could ever find jade with it.
I don't know. I don't know.
At large deposits, maybe you could see. Who knows?
Yeah, if you knew the specific frequency response, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So, but those jade quarries are super, super rare. Another interesting thing about that is those jade quarries somehow existed before the Maya ever existed. The Olmecs were the first people that we know of using that jade. And the Olmecs, so you've got Guatemala down here where they come from, and you've got the Olmecs way up here in Veracruz and Tabasco, Mexico. And so the Olmecs, boom, they arrive. And at the first instance that they arrive, they got these big old heads. The monument that I showed you, that monument with the serpent on it is older than all of the Olmec heads. And it's the very first like monolithic piece of art that we see anywhere in Mesoamerica. And so, boom, they arrive on the scene, fully fledged societal structure with like divine kings and a whole pantheon of gods. And they're obviously like using psychedelics and moving megaliths across like the jungles, valleys, and rivers, carving, expertly carving. I mean, their carving is beyond like one of the things that makes Göbekli Tepe so special in the old world is that the carvings in some ways are more intricate and harder than in Egypt, because in Egypt, they're like chipping away into granite or limestone and carving in hieroglyphs or your logographs, iconographic imagery. But in Göbekli Tepe, you're like pulling the face off of the stone to reveal something from underneath. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the images pop off the stone.
Yeah.
Yes. Instead of being cut in, it's carved away like a sculpture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Olmecs, that's what they're doing, but they're doing it in basalt. So it's freaking nuts stuff, man. So and somehow they had connections all the way down in Guatemala to get this jade. So then I think about that kind of stuff, and I'm like, dude, this stuff just goes back further and further and further and further. The more you study it, the older it's getting. Like all of the pyramids that I was at this week, as big as they are, none of them are as big as the La Danta and El Tigre pyramids that are at El Mirador, which is in northern Guatemala. It's a 6-day hike to get there, like through the jungle. Wow. And most of the time, people just take helicopter out there. That is one of the biggest pyramids in the entire world. They're not 100% sure on exactly how big it is right now, because the lower base of the pyramid is the whole city. Like the whole city is built on a lower base, and then you have 2 of the biggest pyramids in the world built on top of that. And when you get halfway up both of those pyramids, there's 3 pyramids on top of them.
What?
And they face each other. So yeah, if you were to look up a pyramid or a picture of El Mirador, you would see a pyramid and you would go, "Oh, that's not that big." That's just one pyramid on top of the actual pyramid, but it's all covered up by the jungle. So it's hard to, there's no way you can get an actual photo of how large it is. So that goes back to 600 BC. And with the jungle being as dense as it is, it's hard to identify and find sites that are tremendously old because they just get freaking buried. You know what I mean? And I mean like buried.
Yeah.
Like not in Egypt where you can pull the sand back. You know what I mean? There's like the earth is constantly growing and wrapping itself over and like completely burying these structures down.
And the roots are going in and breaking that structure apart and splitting it. And
I show that so much, dude. They have these massive ceiba trees where the like the lower trunks of the trees, how they come out,
spread out. Yeah.
They spread out and they're 6 feet tall. Like the lower,
just the trunk.
The lower trunk of the tree is
like
6 feet.
Like the roots.
The stump, yeah. That's 6 feet tall. So it's a little bit over my head, and it goes down into the pyramid and then pulls all the blocks apart from each other. So it like returns the pyramid back
just
to
to
earth.
A pile of dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. It's freaking crazy, man.
Kill the trees, dude. Save the pyramids. Save the pyramids.
But it's amazing, man. And I actually saw a site. I got this on video too, where a pyramid was growing onto the. I'm sorry, a tree.
Wow.
a tree was growing onto the top of a pyramid, and the freaking tree fell through the pyramid. Like it was growing on it, and then boom, it falls through the floor. And so now you have this big old tree growing up out through the pyramid. And I go and I walk down. Dude, it was like a 40-foot drop to get to the bottom of the pyramid. I have all this on video. And so I like walk around the side, and there's these 2 other chambers, and they're like I say this in the video. I'm looking at it, and the first thing, because when I started studying ancient history, like everybody, it was Egypt. That was like, that's my reference for everything.
Yeah.
If I think something looks similar to something, it's because I think it looks similar to Egypt. But I saw this chamber that looks really similar to the Grand Gallery, and I'm like shining my flashlight down. And, as I'm standing on the edge of these rocks, the rocks are like falling underneath me, falling down. And they're going, like, when they fall, they go, don't, it's like, it's deep.
It's a long way.
And so I'm looking down, and there's this big hollow room that goes on for forever, but there's not like a staircase to get down. And I'm shining my light down, and I say it in the video, I'm like this reminds me of like the Grand Gallery. It's just an insanely tall ceiling,
corbelled walls.
Yeah. And they had a bunch of like corbelled roofs.
Yeah.
In their temples.
That's the easiest roof to make.
Yeah, it's
you want to make
it
all roof.
So it was really strange, and so I couldn't go down inside of it without like breaking my legs. But yeah, man, it's just wild. Like the variety of structures that they have there. There's no uniformity across sites. There's no 2 pyramids that are exactly the same. There's no like I don't know how to explain it, man. It's just an insanely diverse place with all different kinds of architecture, with a density of population that I can't even begin to describe. I could say this.
Is it possible that some of these places that you're finding are actually like they're not Mayan, they may be older, they may predate the Mayan? Like, how much study has been done on all of these sites? Like, I know you're looking at them, you're like, this is recognizably Maya or whatever, but is it possible that some of them are older, and then you have this longer progression? Like, they may push the Maya civilization back.
So that's like a whole web of things. So some of them we 100% know. We know, like, you can tell when they were built just by like. So sometimes this isn't the case if you go back really, really far back to like pre-classic Maya. But in post-classic Maya, right before Europeans arrived, when they built a new level of a structure, so they were like building. So when you see a massive pyramid in the Maya world, if you could have a 3D scan, there's going to be like 4 other pyramids inside that one that were all built in different generations.
Okay.
And so when somebody would die, his son would then come in and build the pyramid on top of him. So his father's body is going to be at the bottom in the middle of the pyramid. So, you carbon date his body, pretty much how old the surrounding structure is. At the very beginning of Maya civilization, that is not the case at all. They're building these pyramids not for tombs, sometimes maybe for like an acropolis that people would live on. Probably some ceremonially of some kind, like religiously, whatever type of purpose. But I don't know that there's a definitive way to prove as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the jungle and the sites get older and older and older. I don't really think there's been much study or even like professional consideration of like, okay, how old are these sites really?
Yeah.
Because they just find, like at El Mirador, they find a whole plethora of bodies, a ton of bodies that are like discarded in battle. They think that there was a final battle at El Mirador, maybe around like year 0 or 100 AD, and they find these bodies all scattered around. So you carbon date those, and those are only about 1900 years old. And then you find some other tomb caches, but these tombs are like they're not burying people inside the structures at this point in the Maya world. They're like burying them off to the side. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's like bedrock burials, but you can tell that people are just walking over, outside of their town, digging up a grave and burying somebody in it. And so they're not being buried in structures. So there's not a definitive way to prove exactly how old a lot of these sites are.
Yeah.
And I mean, the limestone is so insanely heavily eroded that, gosh, I mean, you're there looking at some of this stuff, and I mean, you're picking up something that looks like, this is exaggerative a little bit, but you're picking up a limestone rock that like you can tell it has been rained on so much, and there's so many holes going straight through the limestone, and you're like, this is like 50,000 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
just, and I know the rock itself is, but like at the time that it was taken out of the ground and has been exposed to the elements, you just think it's just, inconceivably old. So I don't know 100%.
But it's possible that some of this may actually like maybe push the Maya civilization back.
Oh, I think without
or they could be precursors. Right.
Yeah. Oh man, I had so many of these conversations. It's really fun. You never learn so much than when you're actually at a site. Like I'm sure when you guys go to Göbekli Tepe,
100%,
you gain so much perspective because there's so many conversations, and you have people like yourselves who are that are in our kind of group, and you're bouncing ideas off of each other, and you gain so much perspective. And so the perspective I gained from this trip is that, number one, the Maya civilization was so much bigger. There were so many more people. There's so many more colossal pyramids and cities out there than people could possibly imagine. And I think that the estimates of their total population is so much lower than it actually was. I saw it with my own eyes, just how many cities and pyramids there are out there. And to think that like a lot of them weren't functional, or that they're all being used for completely religious, symbolic, esoteric purposes, I don't necessarily buy that. And I also think that if the curtain could be pulled back and we would know exactly how old their civilization is, I think it would be tremendously older than just, 200 BC.
Yeah.
It's got to go back so
that's great.
far,
That's great.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man.
All right, we're going to take another break. Thank you, Luke, by the way. This has been fantastic.
It's awesome.
We're going to take another break. I see we got questions in the chat. We will address those when we come back. Thanks, guys.
And we're back again, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final segment. And then maybe we'll do a Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Speaking of Patreon, Luke has a Patreon. I saw somebody donated for Luke to come to Giza, and sorry, bro. Wrong.
Yeah, that's going to
Yeah,
us.
that's going in our
We're gonna buy
pocket.
some beers. Thank you.
But Luke has a Patreon, patreon.com/Luke Caverns.
I'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go there, donate to this guy. He's doing good work.
Yeah.
We need him
Yes.
out there in the jungle.
Scroll up so we can see these questions. Where is it?
Yeah.
And also just YouTube membership. So my YouTube membership or my Patreon, you're gonna get like a whole, kind of like Ben does from his expeditions. He just photo dumps every single thing that he takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every video, every photo that I took, you're gonna get access to all that. We filmed.
that's a good idea.
We filmed about 19 or 20 like full length YouTube videos while we were there, and 5 or 6 of those
What is
are gonna
full
be.
length?
Full length, 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes minimum. One of them is 32 minutes long.
Cool.
And that's going to be the last one that comes out. That's where we legitimately come across a city that nobody other than looters has been at. And
Wow.
we saw, like, that's the one I was talking about earlier, where we saw the quarry. We saw 16 huge pyramids. I mean, freaking huge pyramids. I got it all on video. So that one's going to be about 32 minutes.
Yeah. We got to go.
So and then about 6 or 7 of those videos are going to be exclusive, either Patreon or YouTube membership videos. So if you guys would be interested in stuff like that, then we'll do live streams where we kind of cover like the raw footage of all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
I have pyramid envy. I have to admit.
so
All right.
Yeah.
questions?
Got some questions. Screwdriver tuning. $5 says, Luke, do you think North America had the same amount of structures you're finding down south? Glad you had a safe trip. Thank you, Brothers of the Serpent, for this. Well, you were in North
welcome,
America, right?
I was still in North America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting. Like I had to really be hard on myself about including Mexico and North America, because it makes sense. Like if you're gonna say Central America,
Yeah.
then including Mexico makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's go north of Mesoamerica. So Mesoamerica, you're starting in like El Salvador, Nicaragua. You're going all the way up to just north of Mexico City, like that area of where all these ancient sites were building. When you're saying North America, I get what he's meaning. He's meaning
Yeah.
Texas and above, because there's a huge cultural gap between the Valley of Mexico, where the Toltecs in Teotihuacan and the Aztecs were, and where you start seeing civilization again, because it's the Chihuahuan Desert. So you have almost nothing there. So there's like
I have looked upon
actual
this
gap.
desert. It is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
From there's a place in what is it called? The national park
Big
down
Bend.
there. Big Bend.
Yeah.
Where you can just look off the cliff, where it basically just drops almost straight down, and there's this enormous nothing.
Yeah. There
out
wasn't a lot of people going through there.
Yeah.
So I get what he's saying. And by North America, he probably means like he's either meaning like the American Southwest, like Chaco Canyon, Mogollon, or he's meaning like Mississippian cultures. So, let me read it one more time. North America had the same amount of structures. I think that they probably had the same or maybe more of a population, but they didn't have, the Maya. That's really the Maya, and whoever was building these massive structures in Peru and Bolivia. That's the precipice of ancient American civilizations.
Well, there was a massive amount of earthworks.
That's
right?
what. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So, I mean,
so
it's
they weren't building
but
in
they're
stone.
spread out. Think
Exactly.
about how spread out they are versus this is a very concentrated area.
Yeah.
In the Yucatan.
Yeah. So I don't think
And it starts getting spread out as you go north, right? Like the cities get further apart as you go north.
in the Yucatan.
Like no, as you go up north in Mexico,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
get up, they get more and more spread out. And if you think about it, going up, then you cross the desert, you get into, or you go east and go to the Mississippi Valley, and then suddenly they're concentrated
Yep.
again with all these earthworks everywhere.
Yeah. I think possibly. I'm not an expert in like ancient, modern day United States, the civilizations there. I'm not an expert in that, but I know that the Mississippi, Mississippian culture was vast, and there were a ton of cities that De Soto saw, who was like, he was a Spanish explorer, freaking crazy guy, and he was going up and down, the Mississippi River from Florida all the way over to like Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, all the way down and back out of the Gulf. And he was seeing city after city after city after city after city.
Wow.
And his boats could not go an hour without getting rained down by arrows, because they would be runners who would run until the next civilization. There's foreigners of some kind coming down the river, and they would just getting pelted with arrows. And so, I mean, yeah. And the civilizations were so, when they got up to North Carolina, like where we were at Cosmic, and you get up into those Appalachian Mountains up there, the civilization was so dense and the people were so fierce that they couldn't go any more north into the mountains. And so they had to turn around and go back down through Alabama. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that...
Yeah, you don't mess with those hill people, man.
Maybe not the same density of structures. Maybe not. But at the same time, there's tons of people in North America who are like, yeah, there's a mound in my backyard.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever come to look at it. So potentially... but they're just not. It's just not held at that same.
Definitely
like, really
not
highest
giant pyramids.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some very large earthen mounds, but those are not like something you can just hike from one cluster of them to the next like you can in the jungle down there.
Yeah. They're very dispersed. Very far apart from each other.
There's another question right above that when it says, "What are your thoughts of the Olmec being the line of Cain?"
Cain, like
Cain and Abel.
Yeah. I don't know any connection between between Cain, like, oh gosh, Cain would have lived, probably would have lived somewhere, around Baghdad, somewhere around there. I mean, that's a pretty far connection between, and Cain, we don't even know when Cain lived. Cain could have lived 14,000 years ago. You know what I mean? We just have absolutely no idea. I think traditionally, like, the chronology is that Adam and Eve, if you trace the line back, if you trace the line
using
back,
the names and
they think it's like 6,000 years ago, but obviously, Mesopotamia was roaring 6,000 years ago. In 4,000 BC, Babylon was already there. So, I think
Cain could have been a particular civilization too. Like, we have this idea that some of these old stories,
for sure,
the personalities in it represent a whole civilization, not just one person.
So you have two civilizations that are brother civilizations. And one of them is a certain way, the other one's a different way.
Yeah, one of them's a farmer, the other ones are ranchers, right?
That certainly makes sense. And like in the Bible, when they talk about like the cedar of Lebanon, like a lot of times that doesn't actually necessarily mean the tree. The tree is symbolic of how strong the civilization that they're talking about is, or how strong the civilizations of ancient Lebanon are. So a lot of that is when you get back to when you're studying the Bible, when you go past Moses, like you're going back earlier than Moses, you really have to go to great lengths to take some consideration as to like what you're reading may largely be symbolic. Because Moses, we don't know with 100% that Moses existed, but we know that whoever wrote the story of Moses was living in Egypt and Joseph as well, that whoever wrote the story of Moses in Egypt and Joseph in Egypt was living there at that time and knew exactly what they were talking about.
Yeah, they were familiar with the civilization.
So when you go back beyond Moses and Joseph, you have to just I don't want to say when you're talking about the Bible, take it with a grain of salt. But you have to like really carefully consider that a lot of this,
in terms of it being historical,
is just symbolic.
Exactly.
Yeah. That it's trying to deliver you a message more so than it is.
You are a Satanist.
Yeah, exactly. It's trying to deliver a message more so than it is tell you that Cain literally existed.
Okay, Ed Fu, $20, said, snuck out of work to jump back into this live stream. Damn paid job interference. Love what I have managed to catch to date. Luke, love your work and style, man. Another donation to get you to Giza.
Snakes.
Well, thank you, man. What are you doing this late at work?
He's in Australia.
Oh, is he? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I got you, man.
I'm just guessing
Sorry
based
about
on
that.
it. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't read. But thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that. I haven't had somebody tell me they like my style, but I appreciate
Oh yeah, you got a great style for sure. Yeah. But yeah, keep the questions coming. We're keeping an eye on the chats. You guys don't have to super chat if you want to ask a question. We are reading it, so if we see one, we'll read it. But do we have more questions? What was the most terrifying experience you had on your recent?
The most terrifying
Yeah,
experience.
like did you get freaked out by something?
You know, man, I admit this for the first time in one of the videos. I am plagued by nightmares of snakes in the jungle. I dream about this at least 3 nights a week. Of me trying to lead like my family members through like a real swampy area, and there's like crocodiles and big snakes everywhere, and it like really plagues my dreams.
Okay.
And
That's
dude,
wild.
I looked for snakes the whole time I was there, and I didn't see one snake. The whole time.
Very Dr.
That's
Jones
because
of
we
you.
didn't go with you.
The watcher says you're very Dr. Jones.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah. I'm not scared of like Indiana Jones. He's scared of every snake.
Yeah.
I'm only scared of the fertile ants.
Okay.
That's the one.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Did we talk about this last time?
Last time.
Yeah.
We
So-
went through all the stuff that could kill you in the jungle. That was awesome.
So you know, actually there were tons
These
of
are the
these.
ones that hang like right at head height or whatever.
That's the
the
eyelash
eyelash
viper.
viper.
Oh,
Yeah,
eyelash
you got it.
viper.
Nice.
Dang it.
So
How'd you remember that?
so that's the eyelash viper. I'm not worried about them. Not worried about rattlesnakes because rattlesnakes tell you that you're near them.
Yep.
But the fertile ants will not retreat, and it will strike multiple times. So and they're silent ambush predators. So they look like the ground. You know what I mean? The ground out there is dark brown, soil with like some light brown leaves on top and everything. And so when they curl up, they look like the soil with some leaves sitting up on top. And they just sit there, with these like menacing platinum eyes, and they just sit there and wait. And if you get close enough, boom, boom,
Wow.
boom, and they never dry bite. They're not known to like.
Okay.
So whenever they milk fertile ants, snakes to try to because they milk snakes
the venom.
to make anti-venom.
Yeah.
There are almost no recorded dry bites. Like rattlesnakes dry bite 60% of the time or 30% of the time. It's something like that. Almost no recorded dry bites of fertile ants. So they are gonna get you.
Wow.
And they give you no warning at all, and they won't retreat. So that I was like, in all of the videos, you can hear me constantly telling my cameraman, "Watch out for snakes. Just step where I step. Just step where I step. Just step where I step." And I'm saying that the whole time, and I never even saw one. But I know it's gonna happen one day, and I know it's gonna be bad.
This is a good point. Screwdriver Tuning says dogs were bred for this very reason.
Yeah. If you have
Should
a dog
get a
with
dog,
you,
bro.
Yeah. If you have a
Get
dog.
a snake dog.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That might be good. We had some wild dogs run up on us while we were filming too, and
Another good reason to have a dog.
yeah. So, yeah, I've seen dogs take care of snakes though before, but I feel like I'd get too close to the dog, and then the dog would mess up and get bit, and then it would die. You know, I would feel.
You got to
too
get
bad.
him a chainmail sweater.
Oh yeah, like put armor on my dog so I can kill all the snakes. But when we're out there, man, I mean, I've got snake boots that come up to like just below my knees.
Yeah, I saw that in your pictures.
Which is
It's
I mean,
hot.
Not
Yeah,
very comfortable.
well, no, it's fine. I have like some really, really nice ones, but what I'm saying is, as far as like the protection, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like the vast majority of your venomous snakes you're gonna come across, it's not a 6 or 7 year old snake. You come across a 6 or 7 year old fertile ant snake. Well, you come across your average one. It's coiled up. It's going to be about this big. They're not big snakes generally, and they're very endangered because any time that the Maya or local people see them, they kill them.
Yeah.
Because they're that deadly. They will kill children. If your child gets bit, there isn't a chance of survival, and so they'll kill all of them. So a lot of them that you see are very young. They're about that big. You won't see them coming. They'll get you like right on the side of your foot. A fully grown fertile lance is going to be about this big around when it's laying down, and its head is going to be about that big.
God.
And when it strikes, it's a pit viper, so its head is sitting in the middle of its body, and it's going to be
Like a spring loaded.
Yeah.
exactly, and it's going to be looking. It's not going to be looking at my boot because my boot is not giving off a heat signature. It's going to be looking right at my knee, and that's the closest heat signature to it. So it's going to go above my boot and get me on the knee. And so that's why I'm still paranoid, even with those snake boots.
So you need conquistador armor. That's
Basically, yeah. Or I just need like crotch high chaps. You know what I mean? Like
some assless chaps.
Yeah. So that's gonna be. But what would happen is I would sit down to like eat my lunch, and one would get me on the ass. But when I go on an actual full on expedition, I really don't even need to be like concerned about that. So I'm just gonna get when I do Yashilan, which I can't say exactly when I'm gonna go, but it's really soon. Like we got approval to go in.
Nice.
So it's really soon. Hopefully, if everything pans out, because I don't know what's gonna happen with this like TV show thing, if that kind of messes up my schedule. But before Cosmic Summit, I should be done with the expedition out there.
Wow.
So hopefully I can kind of present about that a little bit. But I think when I do that, I'm going to invest in some like low cut snake proof boots. And then I'm going to wear chaps over that so that I can just march through and not really care about it. Even if the biggest fertile ants with a head that big bites me, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
I forgot where I got on the yeah. The snakes, that of course creeps me out, but I didn't see one. And the guy that I went with, he's like a real wilderness guy, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, man, snakes are very elusive, and he has a lot of experience with snakes. And I would always ask him, I'd be like, how close do you think we are to a fertile lance right now? and he'd be like, I don't know, man. There's probably one within a football field. And I go, one? Dude, there's got to be way more. And he goes, I don't know, man. I mean, snakes aren't as common as you think. And so, I built it up in my head just for so long, and I can't get over the fact that I think they're everywhere. And so I didn't see one the whole time I was there, and I was so terrified. As far as anything, what's crazy, man, is I don't think I have much of a sense of like what I should be scared of. Probably the most dangerous thing I did
Was drive.
Oh my God, dude. It's like you're in Fast and Furious the whole time you're there. Like, yes. Yeah. That was the most dangerous thing I did.
Terrifying thing.
Was drive. And I was riding with a local. It wasn't me riding,
Yeah.
so if I'm there, I'm like getting behind somebody's car. I'm going, well, if I'm 10 under the speed limit, I'm not going around this guy. But the guy who I was with, his name's Chad. Awesome guy. Dude, he was driving like an action movie the whole time, like, you know what I mean? We're like passing an 18-wheeler, and there's an 18-wheeler coming, and we barely, scrape through.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm going,
Yeah.
And he's looking back at me, and he goes, don't worry, man, you're gonna be okay. And so I'm freaking out the whole time, like the whole time that we're there, my heart is beating, and they're doing all this work on the Maya train. Have you guys heard about that?
No.
Dude, let's do that. So when the Maya train is done, that would be a perfect time for like us to all do like a Maya tour.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
so you can
so-
take a train and it just goes
It's
to
gonna
all the
be
big
it's gonna be a
sites?
really nice luxury train. Like that is the president of Mexico. That's his baby. So it's gonna take you like from Merida to Cancun all the way down to Chetumal, which is a town that borders with Belize, all the way over to Campeche, back up to Merida. So it's going to be like a giant loop.
We got to do that.
And they're going to have like haciendas and stuff that you can stay on at all of them. So we could do like a tour where our whole group, we have like a train car, and it's going to be nice. And
Nice.
so,
Oh, that's cool.
they've got hundreds of these, big trucks, trailer trucks out there, hauling stuff back and forth. So we're like swerving in between all of these trucks, driving up and down the Yucatan. But yeah, when they get the Maya train done, we should do that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people who don't like it, but it's gonna put like, the study of the Maya is like a little bit obscure. Like not everybody knows about it. It's because it's not accessible. This for a lot of people
put
is
it on the
going to
map,
put it
yeah.
is going to put it on the map, and people are going to start
Nice.
going because it's going to be a lot easier to get to.
That's when the archaeology is going to become entrenched.
Oh, for sure, man.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like when it becomes like a major tourist destination, it's going to be like, here's the narrative.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got that a little bit. I could see that from like not archaeologists, but people who worked at the sites there. Like, it's interesting how people, no matter who they are, they have a little bit of power over people, and you can tell when people like that. You know what I mean? Like, they're really going to exercise that power and make it known. There were people who were trying to, like, stop us from filming with our cameras, like, with the microphone on top. Like, there were people coming trying to, like, shut us down and everything. And not in any kind of respectful way at all. Not in any kind of, like, inquisitive way. Like, is this really a professional video camera? And it wasn't. It was, like, you know, a Canon R10 or something like that with a little microphone, you know, on top. And so there were people who were coming by, like, shutting down everything that we were doing, trying to. So it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can see them. It's really going to get, like, the discipline is going to get very dogmatic when that happens. When it becomes really popular and then people start, like, investigating, you know, different things for themselves. Oh my God, man. This is how neglectful Maya archaeology can be. So we were at this place called Balam Ku, and it's this very unknown, very obscure Maya site that's only halfway excavated. And you walk into one of the pyramids, and there's this entrance that's like barely open, and you walk in, and dude, I'm talking about the greatest murals. You guys can look this up. It's called Balam, which means jaguar, and then Ku. I'm not sure what that means in Maya, but it's Balam Ku. And you'll see the murals that are on there, and they're like painted this bright red. And I'm talking about, it's the most intricate art that I've ever seen of any ancient site of ever. And there was nobody that visited that site other than myself and the two guys that I was with. And it's built on the outer side of a pyramid, and underneath that you have this chamber with, dude, again, this like megalithic massive lintel that like sits on top of the doorway, and all of the art is like sitting on top of this lintel. And underneath that you have a cave, which, you know, they call Xibalba. And so they built this pyramid on top of a cave. It built the greatest Maya mural I've ever seen, like so intricate that you can just stare at one little section of it, and all of a sudden you'll see, like, in stone carvings, like, this image will pop out, this will pop out, this will pop out, this will pop out, and then it's all connected to one greater thing, and it's like 50 feet long and 10 or 15 feet tall.
Man.
Wow,
And
this is awesome. Yeah.
and so right underneath that, there's a cave that goes down into the ground that the temple was built on top of, because they thought that all caves were interconnected, and a lot of them are, because there are underground rivers that go underneath the Yucatan Peninsula. So all the caves actually are connected. So they thought that all of these caves eventually led down into the underworld. So they called it Xibalba. Well,
Xibalba, that sounds familiar.
It does.
That sounds like an Irish.
Shambhala also.
I was thinking of the
interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to look into.
Yeah. Shambhala is like a legendary lost.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Shambhala.
Shambhala. Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Xibalba. That's
Okay.
that's what it is. But it's interesting that the
Yeah, it's very
pronunciation is so
close.
similar.
Yeah.
So similar. But the guy that we were with, a local guy, he took us there. You had, you kind of got to have somebody. You kind of have to know somebody to be able to see a lot of this stuff, because if you try to find the location of this on Google and go see the mural for yourself, you're not going to find it. It's really tough to get around there initially without knowing a local who knows this guy, knows that guy, and has been to some of these sites before, and he can just walk you out there. And so I asked him, I said, when's the last time somebody went down in that cave? Because I guarantee you there's a ton of burials, a ton of artifacts in there. And he was like 1995. And I said, 1995 was the last time somebody was in there? Are you kidding me? And I was like, seriously, that's the last time somebody's in there? And he's like, yeah, nobody's been down there in almost 30 years. And so I reach out to Dr. Barnhart, and he basically messaged me, and he's like, welcome to Maya archaeology.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's amazing that something that incredible can be so neglected. And so this is what's going to happen. the Maya train's going to explode, and so many people are going to love the Maya world. People are going to it's just going to explode in all these people, people like us, are different little theories, and these theories are going to get really popular, and people are going to start traveling there, just for that reason. And then the, academics, whatever, who control that site are going to like sink their teeth into it, and they're not going to allow anything to happen because
right.
Balam Ku is just sitting there, dude. And then there's going to be hundreds of people a day going to see that, and people are going to be theorizing like, oh, what's in there? What's in there? Like, people are really going to want to be researching it. People are going to start researching it themselves. And the people who had all this time to learn everything they could about it are just going to shut it all down.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to happen. So we're seeing, I think there was a long time that Egypt was exactly the way the Maya world is today.
Yeah.
Where people had all the time in the world to do all this research themselves, and then it becomes a tourist destination, and people start doing the research for themselves, and they just lock it all down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Or you start having to write plaques for museums.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the narrative, or like, an extended version of that or whatever. Or they're writing books or whatever. But it's like, we saw this a little bit with Göbekli Tepe. And it's what's interesting with Göbekli Tepe is they built this massive, very expensive, very beautiful sort of visitors center right near the site. Mm-hmm. And spent a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And they, there's like this multimedia presentation in there, and there's kind of a mini museum, and there's all this data information or whatever. And like that's where I got this, and it's, you can see how it says the world's first temple. Like they're pushing this idea, but at this point, it's no longer true.
Yeah.
Like Karahan Tepe is older. Mm-hmm. It's not clear that it was a temple. There's all kinds of problems with it, but this is now the narrative that is sort of just kind of settled in, even though the actual archaeologists that are working on it are moving past a lot of these ideas that it was buried on purpose, that it was the world's first.
That's pretty recent, right? That they are now saying, okay, it wasn't buried on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's more recent work. Yeah, and it's just a very complex site.
Yeah.
It's both things are still being said.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a new thing starting to be said, but the it was buried on purpose is also still being said.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is
but we should get to these questions because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, Ed Fu says, "Hey, Snake Bros and Snake Force, Luke, caught your videos that touched on Monument 13, the Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting speculation on that potentially being the Phoenicians."
Yeah. Have we talked about that?
No.
I don't think so.
No, we haven't.
Well, yeah, it might be worth discussing a time where we have like a lot more time, but it's a Olmec monument carved in basalt that depicts a guy who is very clearly not Mesoamerican. He has a huge turban. He's got like a pointy long beard. He's got shoes. I think I talked about this at the Cosmic Summit just very briefly, and the logographs or logograms. It's like very, very early hieroglyphs in Mesoamerica to spell out that his name is the Traveler, and he's depicted on multiple other Olmec monuments wearing Middle Eastern clothes. And even and then there's a clay head of him, which he probably saw in the video. There's a clay head. It's a 3D rendering, life size. You look at it, the guy is 100% Middle Eastern.
Okay.
Absolutely no doubt about it. He's got like a wide jawbone, pointy chin, long nose.
Oh, watch your
kind of like the curly beard. So you look at that, see the.
Okay, Kyle's pulling it up here. So
there's a huge turban sitting on top of his head. He's got pointy shoes.
Yes.
He's holding a flag of some kind. He definitely has a beard. Now here's what's interesting. Ancient Mesoamericans did not wear turbans. They did not wear anything on their head that looks like that at all. That mustache beard that he's got going on there.
They don't have facial hair, right?
They're you look at Mesoamerican, look at Native Americans during the time of like the American frontier.
Yeah.
They're all completely beardless.
Yeah.
Mesoamericans also did not have flags like he's holding right there, and they also did not have like shoes or boots that you can see him wearing there. And the footprint that's next to his waist on the left, and the
wait.
Oh yeah, I see that.
This here?
Yeah, that's a footprint. When you see it in person, it's very much a footprint.
And there's a bird. What is
And
that?
then there's a bird. And what's interesting is that bird looks a lot like one of the things that you see at Göbekli Tepe as well.
It does.
I didn't
Like
I
the
didn't
vulture.
yeah, I didn't mention that in my video, but I thought it when I was researching the video.
And then this is like, what is this?
A clover?
Clover.
Yeah. I forget what the
spaceship.
yeah.
It's obviously a UFO. Right?
Yeah. But this is just one monument. And then of this same guy, there is a 3D clay stucco head made of him as well. That's like life size. You know, it's the exact size of a human's head, and probably made to scale of him. And you can tell that he is not under any circumstances a Mesoamerican, because the Olmec people had very round, like pudgy kind of faces with
This
big
may
noses.
be a beard, right? Like
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
it's a beard. Okay,
100% a beard with like the mustache
Yeah, he's
coming
got a
out
mustache.
over his
Yeah,
lip,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Not Mesoamerican at all.
Very cool.
So this monument dates to 900 BC roughly, and exactly at the same time the Phoenicians were sending expeditions out of the Strait of Gibraltar to sail all the way around Africa. And they recorded that they didn't just send one boat, they sent dozens of boats. And there were boats that left and went missing and never came back. There were some boats that came back and said that they found things way out to the west, like huge island chains. Although there's not a lot of Middle Eastern artifacts that survived to begin with. So a lot of this writing that was done on clay tablets, we just, it just doesn't exist anymore, or hasn't been discovered. But they've sent out test ships from the Strait of Gibraltar, like dummy ships that just float out, and they'll float all the way down into the Bahamas, into the Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico. So if you went too far west to try to sail around Africa, you could be pulled by currents all the way down,
drift,
straight into Olmec Heartland.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So perfect. So
Yeah,
very,
that would be great. We need to have another podcast.
yeah. Oh, there's so many rabbit holes to go down, man. So I mean, it's proof positive that at any point in time somebody could have sailed out of the Strait of Gibraltar and ended up in the Americas.
Yeah.
By
Are
accident.
those bullet holes? Is that what that is? People have been shooting at that thing.
I don't know. I
There's
don't know.
definitely that's easy to see. That's a footprint.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
I think
So
people have
and you
been
can
shooting
you
at
can
it.
tell he's for sure holding a flag.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought, it's a flag or some kind of really big axe or knife, but yeah, I think it's more like a flag. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Barnhart and other archaeologists, they think that it's a flag as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So-
there was somebody asking how to spell that place, and I wasn't sure which place it was, but I was thinking maybe Xibalba, which is
Xibalba.
X-I,
Yeah, XIB.
but I don't know which place they were talking about.
Okay, well, I'll say it. So Xibalba is Xibalba,
Okay.
or Balamku is BALAM space KU.
Okay.
Okay, so then we have Vince here, 20 Canadian. Thank you very much. What's Luke's personal hypothesis about the Maya pyramids?
The Maya pyramids. I think that I can't speculate as to why they even started building pyramids, in general, because, the commonly thought thing that like it's the easiest way to build a massive structure. Man, it's just like you just see them all over the world, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there is some kind of truth to that, but my personal hypothesis is that they're definitely a lot older than we currently suspect that they are. They just, in Puebla, Mexico, they just found what they think is an Olmec pyramid, which is 1000 BC. That's not earthen, but it's stone. So they think it could go back to 1000 BC, which would push, like, that would take Mesoamerican archaeology and stone architecture and go,
Wow.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it would push it all the way back. So I think it's a lot older than is currently appreciated right now. But the proof of that, and the proof of the megalithic stonework that's used in the oldest pyramids is buried in the most remote jungles in northern Guatemala, in southern Campeche, Quintana Roo, and Chiapas. And it's going to take, like, at this point, it's probably going to take people like me just mounting, you know, like independent expeditions and going out there and taking photos of it, you know, and just clearing off the side a little bit and taking photos, because I can only do so much. You know, I can't go out there and start like ripping up a pyramid and digging into it. But clearing off the side a little bit and taking photos and then publishing to the world, like, look, there are megaliths out here. And I did that a little bit while I was gone. I found there were some stones that I was looking at that are carved just like the ones at Giza, where one side is angular, the other two sides are flat, and it slides into place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I saw stones like that, and I got photos of it.
So you're going to be releasing those videos. You're going to be releasing some on your Patreon. You're going to be releasing some on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
In the coming months, or how long do you think it's going to take to start getting some of those out?
First one's going to be out next week.
Okay, but the Patreon, you're just like dumping all the raw footage and stuff there.
Yeah. So
That's
all
very
the raw
cool.
footage is going to be dumped there.
Looks like
all
we're
the
going to
photos
have
are
to
gonna be
sign
dumped
up,
there.
bro.
Yep, gonna have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
sign up.
That's awesome, man.
So, but thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah,
I
man.
really appreciate
This
it.
has been great.
Thank
Really
you for
has.
coming out. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure. We got to do it again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
course.
sure. We got to do it again before the eclipse. Do it before Cosmic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you're also starting a podcast, Temple Talk.
Temple Talk. Yeah.
Where you discuss ancient civilizations and mysteries. Why didn't we think of this? How come we didn't think of
I wanted to come
this?
up with something like real catchy and something really casual, kind of like what we've done tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just chilling out, talking about stuff. Because I just always thought, like, I was looking for ancient history podcast, and you guys are the only ones that like scratch that kind of talk show feeling about
okay.
ancient history. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so that was kind of what I had always looked for, and you guys are really the only ones that do it as well.
All
you know,
right.
just like a casual show talking
Yes.
about, you know, shooting the shit about ancient history.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it's going to be.
Well, well, we can come on your show.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do it.
We'll do
Yeah,
it.
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
You got
So-
2 more mics in your studio?
I don't know. I want to build out a studio one day. You know, like what you
probably
guys
be-
have in here. This is sick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to do something,
Thanks, man.
something like this.
Thank you.
So,
Well, I can help you with that for sure.
Yeah.
If you need.
All right,
So-
chat. Thank you guys. Thank everybody for being here. All the questions were great. Thank you for the donations. It's been a lot of fun. Make sure to check out all of Luke's works. You can find him, Luke Caverns, YouTube. He's got
Yep.
Patreon. So check out his stuff for sure. Temple Talk. This is the new podcast.
yeah, it hasn't come out yet, but probably like top of the year. I'm like stacking episodes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Top of the year.
So.
Hey, Vince. $50. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you so
also,
much.
I was really busy setting up the show when Lala C donated too, and I really want to say thank you again for that, and thanks for that.
The flute.
Flute.
Yeah.
I've been playing it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and hey, I went digging through the Explorer's bag, and it's got a lot of really cool stuff in there, so thank you very much, Lalas. That was really cool.
Awesome.
All right. We love you guys.
Always have.
Always
Thank
will.
you guys so much.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
night, Adamu.
Get back to work.
Thanks, Luke. Good night,
Yeah.
Watcher.
Guy watcher.
Cool.